Hey there! If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a single chapter. And tell me, where are you watching from right now? What time is it for you? Because for us, right here, right now, the year is 1888. It's a late October evening, Halloween night, and you are deep in the heart of London. You feel it the moment the heavy, suffocating air settles around you, not just on your skin, but right inside your mouth. It's a metallic, almost rusty tang, thick with acrid coal dust and the pervasive, chill damp. This isn't just a smell. It's a taste that coats your tongue, rough and gritty, like fine ash. You try to swallow, but it just pushes deeper into your throat, a constant irritating scratch in your airways. The fog isn't merely outside. It feels like it's woven into your very being, part of every shallow breath. You pull your wool scarf tighter, drawing the rough fabric up over your nose and mouth, a futile filter against the insidious air. But the creeping cold has already seeped through your heavy overcoat, a damp embrace, chilling you to the bone. Your fingers, even inside your gloves, are beginning to ache. The world beyond you shrinks, compressed by the dense, swirling gray. Gas lamps, usually points of light, now just glow as muted, blurry halos, their weak illumination struggling through the oppressive shroud. Everything beyond arm's reach is indistinct, blurred edges and fleeting, distorted shadows. You squint, straining to decipher familiar shapes, but they melt, shifting to monstrous, ephemeral forms in the gloom. The cobblestones beneath your boots are treacherous, slick, making each step a cautious, sliding effort. Your stride shortens, every movement deliberate, almost a shuffle. You hear the distant, muffled clatter of a hansom cab, a phantom swallowed by the dense air, leaving only a lingering resonance vibrating within your skull. Footsteps echo, too close, then too far, belonging to unseen figures who materialize from the gray and vanish with disquieting speed. You spot a hunched silhouette briefly, a bowed head, a hurried pace. Then they're gone, absorbed by the swirling curtain. A sudden, sharp chill prickles your neck, as if someone just brushed past, a presence felt, not seen. You spin your head, trying to pierce the gloom. Only more gray, more damp. A dry, rasping cough racks your chest. A protest against the air, soot and decay clinging stubbornly to your palate. You press on, guided more by instinct than sight, the ceaseless taste of coal and damp a bitter, inescapable companion. The thought prickles. How much of what you perceive is real, and how much is merely the fog playing cruel tricks? How easily can truth dissolve into illusion when the world itself refuses to show its face? The air, still thick with coal and damp, now seems to carry more than just particulate matter. It carries suggestions. You find your gaze constantly drawn to the edges of the limited visibility, where the dense smog weaves its most convincing deceptions. A low, insistent hum, just at the periphery of your hearing, starts to tug at your attention. It's not a definite sound, like a carriage or a distant bell. It's more like the distant drone of many voices, a restless murmur that never quite coalesces into understandable words. You tilt your head, trying to pinpoint its origin, but it seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, a vibration in the very fabric of the gray. Suddenly, A shape solidifies in the swirling mists just ahead. It's too tall, too slender to be a lamppost, too still to be a person passing by. Your breath catches, and a cold wave washes over you, momentarily pushing away the pervasive dampness. You stop dead, your boots scraping slightly on the slick cobbles. You squint, forcing your eyes to focus through the impossible gloom, desperate for clarity. The outline is vaguely human, or perhaps an animal standing upright, elongated and unnaturally still. You blink, hard, then rub your eyes. When you open them again, the shape is still there, but subtly different, as if it has shifted its weight. Or maybe, just maybe, it was never quite so clear to begin with. A low, guttural growl seems to rise from the very stones beneath your feet, vibrating up through your soles. You freeze again, a shiver running down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold. This sound is too deep, too primal to be any street dog you've ever heard. You clutch the lapels of your coat, your knuckles white, your heart hammering against your ribs. You scan the swirling veil of fog, your gaze darting from one ghostly smudge to another. Nothing. The sound fades, leaving only the relentless hum, now seemingly louder, more oppressive. You push forward, a new urgency propelling you, trying to shake off the unsettling impressions. You tell yourself it's exhaustion, the fog playing tricks, the late hour. But then, as you turn a narrow corner, the faint outline of a child appears, standing absolutely motionless, facing away from you, just a few feet into the murk. No coat, no hat, just a small, indistinct form. You hesitate, your throat tight. No one would leave a child out in this. You take a careful step closer, your hand instinctively reaching out, a word forming on your lips. But before the sound can escape, the shape simply isn't there. It hasn't moved, hasn't run. It has just vanished, absorbed back into the featureless gray, as if it were never truly separate. Your hand drops, cold and empty. You stand there for a moment, the taste of coal and damp suddenly sharper, more pronounced. The air feels heavy, pressing down on you. What you've seen, what you've heard, it gnaws at the edges of your reason. The fog doesn't just obscure, it creates. It manufactures apparitions, whispers, and fears. And in this shadowed, suffocating silence, you wonder how long you can trust your own senses. How long before the phantoms in the smog become more real than the solid ground beneath your feet. The ceaseless taste of coal and damp still clings to your tongue, but now a different sensation cuts through the oppressive monotony. It's a visual one, a thin, almost imperceptible thread of hope in the otherwise absolute shroud. Far ahead, barely a pinprick, you see it, a single desperate flicker of orange light pushing back against the thick, suffocating gray. It's too low to be a distant street lamp, too erratic to be a steady flame. It winks, almost vanishes entirely, then reignites with a soft, persistent pulse, like a dying ember refusing to yield. You stop again, your hand instinctively going to your chest, feeling the ragged beat of your heart. In this endless expanse of indistinguishable gloom, that fragile spark feels like a lifeline, a beacon in an abyss. Every instinct screams to move towards it, to find whatever fragile solace or certainty it offers. You begin to walk, your steps quickening despite the slick, uncertain ground. Your gaze locks on that tiny dancing speck. You stumble slightly over an unseen irregularity, but your focus holds, driven by an unshakable compulsion. As you draw nearer, the orange glow strengthens ever so slightly, casting brief, fleeting shadows that dance wildly in your periphery. They are just the fog, you tell yourself, just light playing tricks. But the shadows seem too sharp, too quick, twisting into forms your mind struggles to dismiss as benign. The light pulsates, a little brighter, a little dimmer, as if struggling to maintain its fragile existence. You feel the cold air still biting at your skin, but a new, almost feverish warmth begins to bloom in your chest, an anticipatory heat. Then, you are close enough to distinguish its source. It's not a window, not a lantern held by a figure. It's a small, makeshift fire, burning low and sputtering within a rusted metal drum, tucked into a darkened alley entrance. The flames are weak, barely licking at damp scraps of wood, but they emit a sickly, yellowish-orange glow. Around the drum, huddled low, are two figures, their faces obscured by deep hoods, only the barest outline visible in the flickering light. They don't look up as you approach, not even as your boots scuff on the flagstones. They simply remain, utterly still, hunched over the meager warmth, their silence more unnerving than any spoken word. The air here, though warmer from the fire, carries a new, sharper scent, stale wood smoke mingled with something metallic and vaguely sweet. You pause, your anticipation turning into wary apprehension. This light, this beacon you chased, it hasn't offered the clarity or comfort you craved. Instead, it has led you to something quiet, unnerving, and shrouded in its own particular mystery. You stand at the edge of the flickering light, caught between the suffocating fog and the enigmatic figures. You realize that sometimes, a flicker of light, seen against an endless abyss, doesn't always illuminate the path to safety. Sometimes, it only reveals the deeper shadows that were there all along. The biting chill of the fog is a constant, but suddenly, another distinct sound slices through the oppressive quiet. It's a rhythmic, almost mechanical clink, 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 a soft metallic chime that seems to drift in from just beyond the range of the gas lamp's feeble glow. You turn your head, straining to pierce the swirling gray. The sound grows louder, more definite, accompanied by the faint, shuffling scrape of boots on the damp cobblestones. It's not the hurried, nervous footsteps of a passerby, but something steady, deliberate, almost ritualistic. Then, a new light emerges from the mist, distinct from the fire's flickering orange. It's a clearer, colder yellow, appearing first as a halo, then resolving into a specific point. You see a tall, slender silhouette appear, almost out of nowhere, holding a long, narrow pole. This is the lamplighter. You watch, transfixed, as they move with an accustomed grace, almost a dance, despite the treacherous ground. Their tall hat casts a deep shadow over their face as they bring the pole up, the hook at its end reaching for the unlit gas lamp hanging above the street. There's a faint, almost musical click as the mechanism engages. For a brief, glorious moment, the fog nearby seems to gasp, pushing back, as a sharp, intense hiss fills the air, followed by a sudden, brilliant flash of incandescent gas. A tiny sun, born in the gloom. The light pours out, momentarily cutting through the thick shroud, illuminating the lamplighter's worn coat, the delicate filigree of the lamp itself, and a small, immediate circle of slick, dark cobbles beneath your feet. You can even see the fine particulate matter dancing in the air, briefly caught in the sudden radiance before being swallowed again. The warmth from the newly lit gas is momentary, fleeting, a phantom touch on your cheek before the pervasive cold reasserts itself. But the victory is short-lived. The surrounding fog, like a patient, living entity, quickly regains its ground. The lamp's bright glow, though strong at its core, struggles to penetrate more than a few feet, its light quickly dissolving into a fuzzy, indistinct halo. The world beyond this tiny, precarious bubble remains an opaque, swirling mystery. The lamplighter, seemingly unfazed by the overwhelming darkness, casts a quick, unreadable glance in your direction. Their eyes like dark pools in the flickering light, before turning and dissolving back into the advancing gloom, their rhythmic, pointe carré receding until it's just another ghost in the pervasive hum. You stand there, left with this fragile, battling light, a solitary sentinel against an ocean of gray. You realize that even in the face of such profound encroaching darkness, there are those who continue their quiet, vital work, bringing their own small, defiant gleam into the world. And yet how easily even the brightest spark can be swallowed, how quickly the illusion of clarity can be reclaimed by the persistent, unyielding night. The taste of coal and damp still lingers, a constant background note to London's Halloween night. But now a new, potent smell claws its way into your senses. It's not just the sharp tang of the fog, it's the thick, muddy breath of the Thames. An undeniable scent of ancient earth, decaying matter, and raw, brackish water, laced with something metallic and vaguely unsettling. It's heavy, almost viscous, making the air feel denser, colder. You can almost feel the river's vast, unseen presence pressing in on you, a dark, indifferent force. You hear it too, a low, restless lapping sound, just beyond the edge of your limited vision. The soft, hungry slurp of water against something unseen, perhaps a barge, or the slick, mucky bank itself. It's a rhythmic, organic sound, utterly distinct from the city's muffled, distant hum. A reminder of something primal and untamed at the very heart of the city. You push through the enveloping gray, drawn by the sound, by the sheer, undeniable presence of the river. Each step is cautious, your boots finding less purchase on the increasingly sodden ground. The cobbles give way to something softer, uneven, a treacherous mix of damp soil and what feels like discarded detritus. Then you feel it. The sudden, yielding softness beneath your boot. Not solid earth, but a thick, squelching mass that instantly grabs at your foot, trying to pull you deeper. It's the mud of the Thames, an icy, clinging grasp that seeps through the leather of your boot, radiating a profound, deep cold directly into your bones. Your foot sinks further than expected, the gritty, slimy muck rising to your ankle, its suction surprisingly strong. You instinctively pull back, a grunt escaping your lips, your other foot bracing to prevent a stumble. The effort is significant, the mud releasing your boot with a wet, sucking sigh, leaving behind a cold, viscous film that chills your entire lower leg. You glance down, or try to, but the fog is too thick, reducing the ground to a murky, indistinguishable surface. You can only feel the cold, wet residue clinging to you, and the sensation of your trousers growing heavier, colder, soaking through. The air here feels different too, imbued with the damp, chilling breath of the water. You peer out into the blank gray where the river should be, a vast, dark expanse hidden from view. You know it's there, a colossal, silently moving entity, but you cannot see it, only sense its deep, cold power. The air is still, save for the rhythmic slurp of the current. You imagine unseen things drifting by, carried on that dark flow, lost and silent in the fog. Standing on the slick, uncertain edge of the Thames, battling the mud's cold embrace, you realize how small and vulnerable you are against the indifferent vastness of the river and the concealing shroud of the fog. It makes you wonder how many secrets this ancient mud holds. How many stories are swallowed by its icy grasp, only to surface as whispers on a night like this. The mud of the Thames still clings to your boots, a cold, tenacious weight. But now, the overwhelming scent of brackish water and ancient decay is pierced by something sharper, more defined. It's the unmistakable smell of wet, disturbed earth, mingled with a faint metallic tang that hints at old iron and something organic, decaying just beneath the surface. You've edged away from the deepest mud, finding a slightly firmer, albeit still treacherous, patch closer to a crumbling stone wall. The air here, though heavy with the fog, carries this new, intrusive scent, drawing your attention downward. Through the swirling obscurity, a faint, rhythmic, scrape-scrape clink catches your ear. It's the sound of a small, blunt tool digging and probing, accompanied by the rustle of coarse fabric. You peer through the gray and distinguish a hunched figure, barely visible in the near-total darkness, bent low over the riverbank. This is a mudlark, one of those solitary souls who scavenge the exposed riverbed for anything of value that the tide might relinquish. They are completely engrossed in their work, oblivious to your presence, a shadowy silhouette against the barely discernible shifting surface of the river. You watch as the mudlark, thin and angular even through their bulky, patched clothing, meticulously works a small patch of the bank. Their movements are practiced, almost desperate, a constant probing sweep of their tool, sifting through the mire. You can feel the intense concentration emanating from them, a singular focus on the grim bounty of the river. They pause, their head cocked, listening to something only they can hear, perhaps the subtle shift of the current or a whisper of wind. Then, with a renewed surge of energy, their digging intensifies in one specific spot, a more frantic, hurried motion. Suddenly, their digging stops. Abruptly, their posture stiffens, their shoulders tensing, a stillness descending upon them that is more profound than their previous focused quiet. You see their head lift slightly, just a fraction, and then lower again, their gaze fixed on something directly in front of them, something just uncovered from the cold, yielding mud. A profound silence follows, broken only by the distant, muted lap of the river. Your own heart begins to beat a little faster, a cold knot forming in your stomach. What could make even a hardened mudlark pause like that? You strain to see, leaning forward, trying to pierce the persistent fog. The mudlark shifts, a slight tremor running through their frame, and then, with a quick, almost furtive motion, they attempt to recover whatever they've found, pushing mud back over it with a shovel. But the fog, for a fleeting moment, seems to thin, a trick of the light and the swirling air, and you catch a glimpse. It's a dark, irregularly shaped object, slick with mud, too smooth, too unnaturally still. You can't make out the details, but the impression it leaves is one of profound, chilling wrongness. The mudlark glances quickly, nervously, over their shoulder, their eyes like dark hollows under their hood, then resumes their frantic reburial. The fog then closes in again, thicker than before, snatching away the glimpse, leaving you with only the mudlark's hurried, muffled scraping. You stand frozen, the cold mud at your boots suddenly feeling heavier, more sinister. The river, you realize, isn't just a passage of water. It's a silent, indifferent keeper of secrets, sometimes revealing its hidden truths only to those desperate enough to search, and often what it reveals is a chilling testament to the city's grim underbelly, a stark, undeniable reality dredged up from the depths of its icy grasp. The cold, persistent damp of the Thames mud is still a phantom presence on your boots, but abruptly, the suffocating quiet is shattered. A low, continuous thrum of sound begins to seep through the dense fog, growing in volume, pushing back against the oppressive silence. It's a distant, indistinct roar, a complex blend of human voices, muffled laughter, and a rhythmic, almost jarring clang of something metallic. It sounds like a living, breathing entity, vibrating in the very air around you, utterly unlike the eerie stillness of the riverbank. You lift your head, turning away from the unseen water, drawn by this sudden eruption of life and noise. The sound pulls you forward, a stark contrast to the desolate paths you've been navigating. As you move, the clamor intensifies, becoming a raucous, unfiltered explosion of sound. You start to catch individual notes in the cacophony, the tinny, out-of-tune jangle of a piano, the sharp crack of breaking glass, punctuated by hoarse shouts and piercing shrieks that might be joy, or something else entirely. It's a raw, unrefined sound, brimming with a wild, untamed energy. Suddenly, a dull orange glow bleeds through the thickest part of the fog ahead. It's not the sickly yellow of a gas lamp, nor the struggling flicker of a fire. This light is warmer, richer, pushing back with a defiant, almost brazen intensity. As you draw nearer, the air around you undergoes a dramatic shift. The cold, metallic scent of the Thames, the pervasive taste of coal, it all begins to recede, replaced by a thick, intoxicating miasma. This is the unmistakable smell of cheap gin, bitter and sweet, mingling with stale beer, acrid tobacco smoke, and the heavy, humid scent of unwashed bodies. It's a powerful, almost aggressive assault on your senses, a dense, boozy cloud that makes your head spin slightly. You stand at the edge of the alley, peering around the corner. The source of the light and noise becomes clear. A gin palace. Its windows, though thick with grime and condensation, glow with an almost feverish light, casting distorted, elongated shadows of frantic movement onto the street outside. For a moment, the heavy wooden swing doors burst open, spewing forth a torrent of blinding yellow-orange light and a tidal wave of sound. You catch a dizzying glimpse inside, a swirling mass of bodies, flushed faces, flailing arms, a frenzy of distorted shapes. The air inside looks thick, hazy with smoke and steam, almost tangible. The heat, the sheer unbridled warmth emanating from the doorway, washes over you, momentarily chasing away the biting cold of the fog. It feels like stepping from one world into another, A sudden, shocking transition from spectral quiet to clamorous chaos. A figure stumbles out, laughing maniacally, nearly colliding with a shrouded form already waiting patiently in the shadows near the entrance. The newcomer barely registers them, immediately melting back into the fog, their laughter quickly swallowed. The doors swing shut again with a heavy thud, plunging the street back into a relative, though never complete, gloom. Only the muffled roar and the persistent gin-soaked scent remain. You stand there, a stranger on the threshold, the warmth on your face quickly fading as the cold fog reclaims its territory. The contrast is jarring, almost violent. You realize that even in this relentless, isolating fog, humanity finds a way to rage against the dying light, to create its own pockets of frantic, often desperate warmth and noise. But how much of that wild revelry is genuine joy, and how much is simply a frantic attempt to outrun the chilling silence that always waits just beyond the swinging doors? The roaring, gin-soaked breath of the palace still assaults your senses. But as you linger near its periphery, the raw, aggressive clamor begins to recede into a chaotic background. Now, other sounds emerge from the edges of the fog, smaller, more fragile, and far more unsettling. You hear a wet, hacking cough that tears through the damp air, closer than it should be. A low, desperate moan, quickly stifled. The faint, persistent chattering of teeth, barely audible above the muffled piano inside. These are the sounds of something breaking down, of life struggling on the very margins. The thick, sweet and sour smell of cheap spirits, mingled with stale tobacco and the humid tang of too many bodies, now feels less like an intoxicating escape and more like a heavy shroud. It presses in on you, clinging to your clothes, making the very air you breathe feel heavy and stale. You shift your weight, your eyes scanning the dense, swirling fog that seems to constantly threaten to swallow the meager light spilling from the Jinn Palace's grimy windows. Out of the endless gray, a figure materializes, almost silently. An old man, bent almost double, his tattered coat barely holding together. He doesn't walk so much as he shuffles, his heavy boots scraping a slow, uncertain path on the slick cobblestones. His head is down, but as he passes a sliver of light from the palace entrance, you catch a glimpse of his face, gaunt, pale, his eyes wide and unfocused, fixed on something far beyond the visible world. He doesn't register your presence, or anything else for that matter. He simply drifts by, a living shadow, a fleeting impression that the fog quickly reclaims. You feel a strange prickle on your skin, a chill that isn't just from the cold, but from the unsettling emptiness in his gaze. Another figure, smaller, hunched, is pressed against the cold brick wall of the Jinn Palace itself, half hidden in the deeper shadows. You can't discern their features, only the slight tremor of their shoulders and the way their head hangs heavy, almost unnaturally still. They appear to be asleep, or perhaps just utterly defeated. The loud, vibrant chaos from inside the palace seems to mock their silent, desperate stillness. You find your gaze lingering on them, trying to find a sign of life, a breath, a twitch. Nothing. They are as motionless as a statue carved from the gloom, as insubstantial as the very fog around them. Suddenly, the Jinn Palace doors swing open again with a crash, briefly bathing the street in a burst of garish yellow light and a fresh wave of raucous laughter and slurred shouts. A woman, her hair disheveled, her dress askew, stumbles out, giggling uncontrollably. Her eyes are bright, but unfocused, darting wildly around before settling on a distant, unseen point. She turns, swaying, and then, without a single glance back at the warmth and light, she dissolves into the enveloping fog, her laughter fading into a faint, melancholic echo. The door slams shut, the light vanishing, leaving only the muffled roar and the heavy, sweet air. You stand there, a witness to these momentary apparitions, these ghosts that walk among the living, swallowed and released by the fog. They are not spirits from another world, but echoes of this one, their lives worn thin by the struggle, their minds dulled by the gin. And as you watch them disappear, you realize how easily one can become invisible, how quickly the vibrant spark of life can be reduced to a flickering, spectral presence indistinguishable from the haunting gray that defines this city on this Halloween night. The heavy, stale breath of the gin palace still clung to your coat, a lingering reminder of desperate revelry. But abruptly, a startling, incongruous aroma slices through the pervasive grime and the chill damp. It's a precise floral scent, rich with jasmine and something faintly exotic, a woman's perfume, utterly out of place in this grimy thoroughfare. So potent, so unexpectedly delicate, that for a moment it feels like a dream, a misplaced memory, amidst the suffocating reality of the fog. You inhale deeply, trying to reconcile the elegant fragrance with the pervasive London grit, but beneath the sweetness, an unsettling sharpness resides, a faint, metallic tang, like cold air whispering over old, unseen blood. The scent grows stronger, closer, an almost visible current through the swirling gray. You peer into the murk, your eyes straining, and then you glimpse her. Not clearly at first, just a rapid, dark shape that rushes towards you, then past you, a blur of frantic movement. Her skirts rustle with an urgent, desperate whisper against the damp air. Her hurried footsteps a rapid staccato on the slick cobbles. She's a fleeting silhouette, caught for a split second in the anemic spill of a distant gas lamp. You catch the briefest flash of her face. Pale, drawn, her eyes wide, almost wild, darting not at you, but beyond you, searching, filled with an undeniable terror. Her lips are pressed into a thin, white line, a tiny, ragged gasp escaping them, though no words are uttered. A few strands of dark hair have escaped her bonnet, plastered wetly to her forehead. A sudden, sharp fear grips you, a cold knot tightening in your stomach. It's not your fear, not exactly, but a raw, contagious terror that seems to emanate from her, a palpable wave of dread trailing in her wake. The exquisite perfume, once a fleeting moment of beauty, now seems tainted, suffocated by the unseen weight of her panic, clinging to the heavy air. You feel a strange prickle on the back of your neck, a sense of unseen eyes upon you, not just her, but you too now drawn into her desperate flight. Your hands clench inside your pockets, your breath held tight in your chest, a silent plea caught in your throat. She doesn't falter, doesn't glance back, simply melts into the fog with astonishing speed, her hurried footsteps fading almost instantly, swallowed by the oppressive gloom. The rich, jasmine scent lingers for another agonizing moment, a ghost of her flight, an invisible presence that refuses to dissipate. It's as if the fear itself has infused the perfume, transforming its delicate beauty into something deeply unsettling, a fragrant herald of unseen danger. You stand there, the sudden silence heavy, the cold fog pressing in once more, now carrying not just the smell of coal and damp, but the lingering, chilling essence of perfume, and profound, undeniable fear. It makes you wonder how often beauty serves as a thin veil, masking the raw terror that lurks just beneath the surface. Especially when the world itself is a swirling, unknowable canvas of gray, capable of hiding so much more than mere sight can perceive. The sharp, floral note of perfume has finally dissolved into the pervasive dampness, taking with it the echo of frantic footsteps and the chilling ripple of borrowed fear. But the sudden, absolute quiet that follows is short-lived. A new sound emerges from the suffocating shroud. Unlike anything you've heard before tonight, it's a series of distinct, resonant thuds. Thump, thump, thump. Not the dull clatter of a distant carriage, nor the frantic beat of your own heart. This is a deliberate, rhythmic knocking, muffled by the fog, yet clear enough to demand your full attention. It feels like it's coming from somewhere just out of sight, just beyond the nearest swirl of gray. You halt, your breath catching in the icy air, your head tilting, trying to pinpoint the source. The sound repeats, slow and insistent, a measured cadence that seems to pull at something deep within you. It's not loud, but it vibrates with an eerie persistence, as if whatever is making it refuses to be ignored. You begin to move towards it, your steps careful, almost silent on the slick cobbles, drawn by an irresistible curiosity, a desperate need to understand. Each thump feels closer, stronger, reverberating not just in the air, but somehow within your very chest. As you navigate a particularly narrow, darkened alley, the air thickens, the fog pressing in even tighter, reducing visibility to mere inches. The knocking intensifies, now seeming to come from directly ahead, a solid, unwavering insistence. You stretch out a hand, feeling for a wall, an obstacle, anything to guide you in the oppressive blindness. Your fingers brush against cold, rough brickwork, then follow it. The rhythmic thump 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 is now right beside you, seemingly coming from within the very wall itself. It's too steady, too rhythmic to be a falling branch or an animal. It is undeniably a deliberate communication. You press your palm against the icy, damp bricks, trying to feel any vibration, any tremor from the other side. Nothing. The stone is solid, unyielding, yet the sound continues to emanate from within it, a ghost knocking at the heart of the masonry. You lean closer, straining to hear beyond the dull impact, hoping for a voice, a sigh, anything to offer a clue. But there is only the consistent, unnerving rhythm, a pattern that holds no discernible meaning, only a relentless, unanswered plea. The damp cold of the wall seeps into your hand, chilling you to the bone, a stark contrast to the persistent, vibrant pulse of the knocking. The fog, once an enemy, now feels like a silent accomplice, holding back whatever is on the other side, amplifying the unsettling mystery. You stand there, a physical barrier separating you from an unseen presence, a profound chasm of unknowing. The knocking continues, a solitary, defiant heartbeat in the heart of the shrouded city. You realize that some walls, no matter how thick, can never truly silence what lies on the other side, and some pleas, no matter how muffled, can still reach out. A stark reminder that even in the deepest fog, there are always unseen presences clamoring for attention, forever knocking at the fragile boundaries of our understanding. The muffled, insistent knocking from the other side of the wall has faded, leaving a silence that feels heavier, colder than before. You push through the oppressive fog, your sense of direction almost entirely gone, when suddenly the air itself shifts. It's a sharp, acrid scent, cutting through the pervasive coal and damp like a surgeon's blade. This isn't the organic decay of the river, nor the boozy sweetness of gin. This is the stark, clean, yet utterly unsettling smell of formaldehyde, mingling with a metallic tang that prickles the back of your throat. It's cold, sterile, a scent that speaks of preservation and something unsettlingly precise. You step forward, your boots now echoing on a different kind of floor. Not cobbles, but smooth, cold stone. The fog, still present, seems to thin slightly here, not dissipating entirely, but becoming more like a veil than a solid wall. You find yourself in a large, circular chamber. Tiered benches rise steeply around you, dark wood curving upwards into the gloom, waiting for unseen students. The only light comes from a cluster of weak gas lamps high above, casting a sickly, yellowish-white glow that struggles to illuminate the vastness, leaving most of the upper reaches in impenetrable shadow. The air is still, so intensely still, that you can hear the faint, hollow echo of your own breath. In the very center of the chamber, beneath the dim, struggling light, sits a long, stone slab. It's unnaturally pale, stark against the dark floor, and utterly vacant, but around it, arranged with a chilling precision, are glinting instruments. Scalpels, forceps, saws, their polished surfaces reflecting tiny, distorted slivers of the overhead light, looking more like a collection of macabre jewels than tools of scientific inquiry. Each one seems to hum with a silent, expectant energy, as if waiting for a hand to grasp it, for work to begin. You feel a strange tremor run through your hands, an instinctive clenching of your fingers. The cold radiating from the stone slab and the sharp instruments is not the chill of the fog, but a deeper, more profound cold, one that seems to emanate from the very concept of stillness, of finality. You walk slowly around the edge of the central slab, your footsteps unnervingly loud in the quiet. You stop, gazing at the pristine, empty surface. It's scrubbed clean, but your mind fills it, overlays it with spectral images, the forms that have lain here exposed and explored. You can almost feel the presence of past procedures, the silent scrutiny, the detached curiosity that once filled this room. It's a place where the veil between flesh and spirit feels thinner, where the mysteries of life and death are laid bare, yet never truly resolved. Standing in this sterile, echoing space, surrounded by the ghosts of scientific inquiry, you realize that some chills aren't just from the cold outside, but from the stark, unsettling realities found within. Here, in the anatomy theater, the body is reduced to a puzzle, a mechanism to be understood, its vibrant essence stripped away, leaving only the cold, hard facts of its physical form. And you wonder if, in peeling back the layers of existence, one ever truly finds an answer, or merely more questions, more cold, silent chambers waiting to be explored. The sterile, biting cold of the anatomy theater still permeates the air, but beneath the sharp tang of formaldehyde, a faint, almost imperceptible smell begins to assert itself. It's the scent of damp earth, rich and cloying, mixed with something else, a subtle metallic sharpness, like freshly turned soil and old blood. It's an incongruous smell in this clean, stark space, a primal earthiness that clashes with the clinical precision of the room. It feels as though the very ground outside, and perhaps something recently taken from it, has permeated these walls. You find yourself drawn to the darkest corners of the tiered chamber, away from the weak, sickly glow of the overhead lamps. The shadows here are deep, absolute, clinging to the worn wooden benches like shrouds. You feel an oppressive weight in these recesses, a profound stillness that is different from the expectant silence of the central slab. This is a watchful silence, a hidden stillness, as if something has recently been here, or is still here, lurking just beyond the reach of your sight. Your gaze follows the curve of the steps, searching for any break in the gloom, any shape that doesn't quite belong to the inert architecture. A barely audible scrape, a rustle like heavy cloth against stone, pulls your attention to a low archway, almost swallowed by the deepest shadow. It's too faint to be certain, too quick to identify. Your heart gives a sudden, jarring lurch against your ribs. You move closer, slowly, your boots silent on the cold stone. The air here is colder still, infused with that earthy, metallic scent. You reach out, your fingers trailing along the rough, damp stone of the arch. It feels ancient, forgotten, a secret passage designed to conceal. You squint into the inky blackness beyond the arch, your eyes struggling to adapt. Nothing. Just an unbroken wall of darkness, seemingly leading nowhere. But then, a faint, rhythmic drip, drip, drip sounds from within the unseen depths. A slow, methodical release of moisture. It's too regular to be natural condensation. It has a deliberate, almost chilling quality. It feels like time being measured in slow, cold drops, in some hidden space just beyond your reach. You find yourself leaning in, straining to hear, to understand the secrets that trickle from that unseen darkness. A strange tension coils in your stomach. This room, so clinical and open, now feels like a facade, a stage for a grim play, while the true work, the darker procurement, happens in the concealed places. The presence of that earthy smell, the furtive sound, the dripping water in the hidden archway, it all paints a chilling picture without a single word being spoken. You stand there, a silent observer in a silent theater, the sterile instruments on the slab gleaming with a detached indifference, while the shadow of the body snatcher, of desperate, illicit trade, seems to breathe in the unseen corners of the room. You realize that even in the pursuit of knowledge, there are always shadows, always unspoken costs, and that some truths are only whispered from the darkest, most carefully hidden recesses of human desperation. The pervasive smell of old, unwashed fabric and something sickly sweet, like cheap, diluted disinfectant battling mold, fills your nostrils. It's heavy, almost thick, making the air around you feel even denser. But it's not the chill of the fog that grips you now. It's the insistent, crawling sensation that has already begun its insidious march across your skin, beneath your threadbare blanket. It starts as a subtle prickle, a phantom touch, then blossoms into a relentless, maddening itch that seems to burrow deep into your flesh. You shift your weight, a futile attempt to escape the growing irritation. The mattress beneath you offers no comfort. It's a lumpy, unforgiving sack, stuffed with something coarse and unyielding. Straw, perhaps, or worse. Each movement sends a faint, dry rustle through the sparse bedding, a sound that only seems to exacerbate the torment. You can feel the rough, mended fabric of the mattress cover against your cheek, scratchy and cold, despite the clammy warmth of your own body. It's not just a surface itch. It feels like something living is awakening, 1,000 tiny pinpricks eager to claim your skin. You instinctively bring a hand up, dragging your nails across your arm, Then your neck. The temporary relief is fleeting, quickly replaced by a new, more intense wave of irritation, as if the scratching itself has only agitated whatever unseen things are causing this torment. Your skin feels hot, inflamed, yet the air in the dormitory is still bitterly cold, an internal fire battling an external freeze. The weak, flickering gaslight from the distant corridor casts long, distorted shadows across the crammed rows of identical, miserable beds, each one a silent testament to the struggle against this pervasive discomfort. Around you, you hear the muffled sounds of others. A restless sigh, a low groan, the sudden, sharp slap of a hand against a limb. You know they are fighting the same battle, trapped in the same cycle of maddening irritation. You pull your knees up, trying to curl into a tighter ball, as if compacting your body might somehow protect it from the creeping assault. But the itch is relentless. It finds every exposed patch of skin, every tender spot, whispering of unseen invaders, of dirt and neglect, of 1,000 tiny teeth biting at your peace. The mattress itself feels like a living, breathing enemy, the source of this ceaseless torment. It's not just a place to rest, it's a constant, physical reminder of your desperate situation, a bed of thorns from which there is no escape. And as you lie there, utterly consumed by the relentless itch, you realize that sometimes the greatest hauntings aren't spectral figures in the fog, but the persistent, undeniable discomfort that lodges itself deep within your own flesh, a torment that strips away your dignity, leaving you to grapple with the raw, inescapable reality of your own body's rebellion. The infuriating itch from the mattress has not truly subsided. It remains a persistent, insidious presence beneath your skin, a phantom legion of discomfort. But now it becomes a secondary torment as another sensation washes over you, heavy and unavoidable. It's the sound of the workhouse itself, a low, collective murmur of despair that never truly silences. You hear the shallow, rattling coughs that echo from distant corners, the soft, hopeless sighs that punctuate the quiet, and the almost inaudible scrape of restless limbs on rough bedding. It's a symphony of muted suffering, a constant hum of lives being worn down, all contained within these cold, unforgiving walls. You push yourself up slightly, the lumpy mattress groaning in protest beneath you. The weak, sickly glow of the gas lamps, sparsely placed down the long dormitory, reveals a grim tableau. Row after row of beds, identical in their stark simplicity, stretch into the blurring fog that has even managed to seep into this supposedly enclosed space. Each bed holds a figure, a silhouette of human misery. You see hunched backs, heads buried in arms, faces turned to the cold, bare wall. Their clothing, where visible, is uniformly drab, rough-spun gray or faded brown, devoid of any personal flourish, a visual erasure of individuality. As your eyes adjust, you begin to pick out more detail in the dim, oppressive light. Gaunt faces, etched with lines of hardship and resignation, some barely more than youthful, others withered beyond their years. Their eyes, when you glimpse them, are hollow, unfocused, staring out at nothing, or perhaps inward at their own private hells. You see a young boy, no older than 7 or 8, curled tightly on his cot, his small frame trembling with silent sobs that shake his thin shoulders. No one approaches him, no one offers comfort. Every soul here seems encased in their own impenetrable sphere of suffering, a chilling testament to the isolation poverty enforces. The air, still thick with the smell of old fabric and disinfectant, feels heavy with unspoken stories, with the weight of broken spirits. It's a tangible presence, pressing down on you, making each breath feel shallow. You look around, taking in the gray, peeling paint on the high walls, the cracked window panes where the outside fog presses in like a hungry ghost, and the utter lack of anything that speaks of warmth, beauty, or hope. This place isn't just a building. It's a cold, living monument to destitution, a cage built of despair. You lie back down, the persistent itch now almost a distraction from the profound chill that settles deep within your chest. It's not the physical cold of the night, but the soul-deep cold of observation. Here, in the heart of the workhouse, you witness the specter of poverty not as a distant concept, but as a suffocating, ever-present reality that strips away dignity, reduces humanity to its barest, most desperate form. It makes you realize that sometimes the most terrifying hauntings aren't supernatural. They are the undeniable, chilling echoes of human suffering, etched onto the very fabric of existence, a ghost that walks among the living, cold and real. The lingering, bitter taste of coal and damp from the London fog still pricks at your tongue, but now, a new, utterly distinctive scent begins its slow, insidious invasion of your senses. It's a thick, cloying sweetness, like burnt sugar mingled with exotic spices and something deeply, profoundly earthy. This is the unmistakable heavy aroma of opium smoke, a languid, almost viscous smell that clings to the air, saturating every corner of this cramped, windowless room. It pushes past the cold, clean air of the street, wrapping itself around you, making each breath feel shallow and strangely sweet. You step further inside, drawn by the scent, by the absolute quiet that hums within this hidden den. The fog outside has vanished, replaced by an internal, artificial haze, a dense, gray-blue cloud of smoke that hangs heavy in the air, swirling slowly, mesmerizingly, in the dim, flickering lamplight. It's so thick it feels like you could reach out and grasp it, a tangible, dreamlike curtain that obscures as much as the outside fog. The air is warm here, almost humid, a stark contrast to the biting chill you've grown accustomed to. This heat, coupled with the heavy smoke, begins to press down on you, a soft, seductive weight that makes your limbs feel strangely heavy. Your eyes, straining through the haze, begin to discern shapes. Dark, shadowy figures are sprawled on low divans and cushions, scattered around the room. They are utterly still, some lying flat, others propped up, pipes clutched loosely in their hands or resting beside them on small, ornate trays. No one speaks. There's no clatter, no laughter, no harsh cries, only the faint, rhythmic gurgle of water pipes. A soft, distant, bubbling sound that seems to echo the slow, deliberate pulse of the room itself. A tiny oil lamp, its flame barely a pinprick, casts just enough light to illuminate the delicate curve of a porcelain pipe, or the relaxed, almost blissful expression on a half-hidden face. You move deeper into the room, your boots sinking slightly into thick, worn carpets. The warmth intensifies, a soft, all-encompassing embrace that begins to loosen the tension in your shoulders. The heavy, sweet smoke enters your lungs, not with a harsh cough, but with a subtle, disarming ease. A strange sense of calm begins to spread through your veins, a quiet lethargy that dampens the sharp edges of the night's anxieties. Your mind feels a little less keen, your thoughts beginning to drift, like the languid coils of smoke themselves. You find yourself slowing, your steps becoming heavier, more deliberate. The clamor of the city, the haunting whispers of the fog, the specters of poverty and fear, all begin to recede, muffled by the pervasive, intoxicating haze. Here, in this hidden, smoke-filled sanctuary, the world outside seems distant, inconsequential, and as you breathe in the heavy, sweet air, you realize that perhaps some ghosts are not seen, but felt, a profound, seductive numbness that promises to erase all discomfort, all fear, all thought, leaving only the soft, languid drift of an altered reality. The sweet, heavy warmth of the opium smoke is no longer just in the air. It's deep inside you, coating the back of your throat with a subtle, cloying sweetness that lingers. Your tongue feels thick, a little numb, and the constant ache in your feet from the damp London streets, the persistent chill in your bones, has receded into a distant, almost imperceptible hum. The world outside, its harsh edges, its biting cold, now feels impossibly far away, like a fading echo of a forgotten dream. The haze around you seems to thicken, solidifying into soft, shifting walls, breathing in and out with the rhythm of the pipes. The tiny oil lamp's flame, once a pinprick, now dances, elongating, then shrinking, its light shimmering like a willow, the wisp. The figures sprawled on the low divans no longer look like tired, desperate souls. Their outlines blur, soften, becoming indistinguishable from the shadows, merging seamlessly with the patterns on the worn tapestries that adorn the walls. They are less people, more sculptures of peaceful surrender, frozen in a timeless smoke-filled tableau, their faces serene, their breath shallow, barely stirring the heavy air. You feel a profound sense of detachment begin to bloom within you. Your body, once a source of cold and discomfort, now feels distant, light, almost weightless. A gentle warmth spreads from your core, expanding slowly, pushing away the internal chill that once haunted you. The relentless grip of anxiety, the subtle prickle of fear, the gnawing worry of the outside world, they all loosen, dissolving slowly, steadily, into the swirling haze. Your thoughts, once sharp and insistent, become languid, unhurried, drifting like the curls of smoke themselves, untethered from urgency. The clamor of the city, the haunting whispers of the fog, the specters of poverty and fear, the grim discovery on the Thames mud, all become hazy, distant memories, like scenes from a half-forgotten play. They no longer hold their sharp edges. They are softened, muted, like voices heard through a thick velvet curtain, their power diminished to nothing more than a faint whisper on the periphery of your awareness. The deep, heavy silence of the room, punctuated only by the soft gurgle of a pipe, wraps around you, not with the oppressive weight of the outside world, but with a comforting, almost maternal embrace. Here, in this hidden, smoke-filled sanctuary, the world outside seems distant, inconsequential. Your limbs grow heavier, yet your spirit feels lighter, floating, buoyed by the sweet, intoxicating haze. You are not truly dead, not truly gone, but you are not entirely here either. This is a different kind of cessation, a temporary, chosen oblivion, a profound escape. And as you surrender to the languid drift, you realize that for some, on a haunted Halloween night like this. This gentle fading, this dreaming a different death, is the only peace they can find from the chilling, unyielding reality of their waking lives. The sweet, cloying film of opium still coats the back of your throat, a lingering phantom, but it's abruptly, violently assaulted. A sharp, insistent clatter, clatter, clatter rips through the lingering haze in your mind. A sound so immediate and jarring it feels like a physical blow. It's the unmistakable rhythmic beat of hooves on wet cobblestone. Close, too close, accompanied by the muffled rumble of heavy wheels. The tranquil silence of the den is shattered, replaced by the raw, untamed clamor of the street, pulling you back with an almost painful urgency. The languid warmth that cocooned you begins to dissipate, chased away by an insidious chill that creeps into your bones, reminding you of the pervasive London damp. The heavy, sweet scent of opium fights a losing battle against the sharp, metallic tang of horse and cold iron, mixed with the ever-present acrid taste of coal. Your muscles, which felt so light and distant moments ago, now ache with a dull, heavy insistence. You push yourself up from the cushions, your limbs feeling sluggish, heavy, as if made of lead. The smoke-filled air of the den seems to churn, suddenly oppressive, and you find yourself stumbling towards the doorway, compelled by the insistent, drawing rhythm outside. You push through the heavy curtain of the opium den, emerging back into the bewildering embrace of the London fog. The external world, once a hazy memory, now slams into your senses. The air is brutally cold, damp, stinging your face and hands. The incessant clatter, clatter, clatter is deafening now, vibrating through the very soles of your boots, echoing off unseen buildings. A pair of sickly yellow gas lamps, mounted on a fast-approaching carriage, cut through the swirling gray like angry disembodied eyes. For a brief, dizzying moment, they illuminate the dense, moving curtain of fog, showing only fleeting, distorted shapes. Then, with a sudden, forceful rush of cold wind and the metallic scent of horseflesh, the carriage bursts from the gloom. It's a sleek, dark, handsome cab, its wheels churning through unseen puddles, splashing cold, muddy water onto the cobbles nearby. The horse, a powerful, dark silhouette, snorts, its breath pluming white in the cold air, its powerful hooves striking the stone with a thunderous rhythm. You catch a glimpse of the driver, a high-hatted shadow, hunched over the reins, his face entirely obscured by the low brim and the swirling mist. His movements are sharp, efficient, almost violent, pushing the beast to breakneck speed through the impossible visibility. And then, just as quickly, the cab is past you, a vanishing blur, swallowed by the fog in an instant. The rhythmic clatter of hooves recedes, diminishing rapidly into the background hum, leaving behind only the echoing sound of its passage in the newly heavy silence. You stand there, a cold spray of water on your face, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm, a raw counterpoint to the ghost of the hooves. The sudden, violent re-entry into the city's harsh reality is jarring. You realize that even in the deepest, most seductive haze of escape, the relentless, undeniable march of life, with all its chaotic energy and unknown destinations, will always find a way to break through, pulling you back, whether you are ready or not, into its bewildering, fog-shrouded dance. The cold spray from the vanished hansom cab still clings to your face, a damp, lingering promise of the night's relentless chill. The rhythmic clatter of hooves has dissolved into the pervasive hum of the fog. leaving behind a silence that feels heavier, more profound than before. Your heart still pounds a frantic rhythm in your chest, a raw echo of the cab's hurried passage. But then another sound, softer, more deliberate, begins to assert itself from the swirling gray just ahead. It's the distinct, complaining groan of carriage springs, a slow, methodical creak of leather and wood, suggesting a different, more hesitant movement. You lift your gaze, straining to pierce the seemingly endless curtain of mist. A shape begins to solidify, not a blur of speed, but a stationary, darker mass. It's another hansom cab, or perhaps the same one, now halted, its horses breathing heavy, steaming plumes into the frigid air. The cab itself seems to exhale a deeper chill than the surrounding fog, a cold that prickles your skin even from a distance. The gas lamps on its sides cast only weak, sickly halos, barely illuminating the immediate ground, leaving the rest of the vehicle and its occupants in deep shadow. As you approach, drawn by an irresistible pull of curiosity, you notice the driver. He's a still, hunched silhouette atop his box, his back to you, utterly motionless. He makes no move to descend, no shout for a fare, no call to unseen passengers. An unnatural stillness permeates the scene, more unsettling than any frantic rush. You find yourself moving closer, your boots silent on the slick cobbles, drawn by the unsettling absence of any discernible action, any human sound. The air around the stopped cab is heavy, dense, carrying a faint, peculiar scent, not just horse and wet leather, but something faint, almost chemical, like old linens in a sealed room. You draw level with the cab, your breath held in your chest. Through the grimy fog-streaked glass of the side window, you catch a fleeting glimpse inside. A figure is slumped against the worn upholstery, utterly still. It's impossible to make out any detail. Just a dark, motionless form, devoid of any discernible movement. No shift of shoulders, no rise and fall of breath. It could be sleeping, you tell yourself, but the absolute, unwavering stillness speaks of something far more profound, a deeper, colder repose. Then the driver stirs, not to open the door, not to speak. Instead, his gloved hand reaches down, fumbles for a moment, and then places a small, dark, weighted bag onto the damp cobblestones just beside the cab's wheel. He doesn't look at it. He doesn't glance back at the cab. He simply places it there, a silent transaction for a silent journey. With a sharp flick of the reins and a low grunt to his horse, the cab lurches forward, slowly at first, then gaining speed, its wheels churning, its dark form dissolving back into the swirling, hungry fog, leaving behind only the small, solitary bag on the cold, wet ground. You stand there, the silence pressing in once more, the faint scent of that unsettling presence still in the air, the image of the motionless passenger, the driver's silent delivery of the fare, and the solitary bag on the cobbles weaves a chilling tableau in your mind. You realize how many hidden journeys unfold in the deep anonymity of London's fog, how many silent transactions are made for destinations unknown, carrying burdens no one speaks of. Some passengers, you understand, travel in a quiet so absolute they pay a fare that extends far beyond mere coin. And in this bewildering, fog-shrouded city sometimes, the greatest mysteries are not found in what is seen, but in what is silently observed and quietly left behind. The cold spray from the passing cab has long since vanished, leaving your face numb and the lingering sweetness of opium smoke feels like a distant memory. But now, a different sensation washes over you, cutting through the pervasive coal and damp. It's the sheer weight of different black, not the ephemeral darkness of the fog, but a deep, absolute black, a fabric that seems to absorb all light, even the weak, sickly glow struggling through the mist. You catch a glimpse of it, a dull, profound color that immediately announces its presence. You reach out, your gloved fingers brushing against the heavy material. It's crepe, rough and crinkled, thick and strangely unforgiving beneath your touch. It doesn't reflect the light. It swallows it, creating an almost palpable void. This fabric seems to dampen sound, absorb emotion, a stark, undeniable proclamation of loss that hangs heavy in the air. The chill it conveys isn't just from the outside cold. It's an intrinsic solemn chill, a whisper of finality. A building, larger than its grimy neighbors, is shrouded in it. Swaths of this black crepe hang from every window, from the heavy oak door, catching the occasional mournful gust of wind with a soft rustling sigh. The air around this place feels heavier, imbued with a profound, solemn quiet that battles against the city's distant, muffled clamor. Even the fog itself seems to respect this boundary, hanging a little more still, a little denser around the draped edifice, as if holding its breath. Figures move near the entrance, dark shapes against the darker backdrop, their movements slow, hushed, almost reverential. A woman, her face a pale blur beneath the heavy veil of her own black attire, passes a gloved hand over the draped fabric, her gesture slow, almost caressing, as if seeking solace from its unyielding texture. Another man stands sentinel by the door, his gaze fixed on the swirling fog, as if expecting something more to emerge from its depths, or perhaps for something lost to return, carried back by the tendrils of mist. No words are exchanged, only the silent, shared weight of an unseen burden. You stand there, a silent observer, feeling the cold, silent presence of grief emanating from the draped building. The heavy, tactile blackness of the crepe isn't just a color, it's a physical manifestation of sorrow, a barrier between the world of the living and the profound, silent mystery of what has passed. And in this moment, amidst the haunting fog of Halloween night, you realize that some shadows are not cast by light, but by an unbearable absence, a weight of sorrow so profound it can clothe a building and silence a street, a stark reminder that even in a city teeming with life, the presence of death always commands its own particular, heavy stillness. The oppressive weight of the black crepe still clings to the air, a cold, unyielding presence. But now, a softer sound filters through the dense fog. It's the muted shuffle of feet on damp cobblestones, hushed and slow, accompanied by a faint, almost imperceptible sniffle. These aren't the hurried footsteps of the living, nor the spectral whispers of the wind. These are the footsteps of grief, heavy with a burden that no physical weight can truly convey. You find yourself moving towards the sound, drawn by its quiet, unbearable sorrow, your own breath held tight in your chest. As you draw nearer, the fog, for a moment, seems to part, revealing a small cluster of figures gathered at the entrance of the draped building. They are shrouded in black, their faces indistinct blurs beneath heavy veils and broad-brimmed hats. Their shoulders are hunched, their bodies bowed, a collective posture of profound, agonizing loss. They stand in a tight, sorrowful huddle, radiating a chill that cuts deeper than the pervasive cold of the night, a cold that emanates from the deepest recesses of the human heart. And then you see it, held aloft by two men, barely visible beneath their own dark coats, is a coffin. But it is impossibly small, so tiny, in fact, that it seems to float, almost weightless, through the swirling gray. It's a miniature box, covered simply in a swatch of the same dull, light-absorbing black crepe that adorns the building. No ornate carvings, no polished gleam, just a stark, unadorned casket, almost swallowed by the enveloping fog. Your eyes fix on it, tracing its delicate, heartbreaking contours, a chilling testament to a life cut tragically short. The men carrying it move with an almost agonizing slowness, their steps deliberate, yet the coffin itself seems to offer no resistance, no substantial counterweight. It's as if they are carrying not wood and lining, but an absence, a void, a hollow shell. A woman, her face buried in a handkerchief, reaches out a trembling hand, not to touch the coffin, but to steady herself against a nearby wall, her body racked with silent, convulsive sobs. Her husband, standing beside her, stares straight ahead, his jaw clenched, his eyes, if you could see them, surely mirroring the profound, silent scream of her grief. Their movements, their very stillness, speak of a pain so immense it cannot be voiced, only endured. You stand there, a silent witness to this intimate moment of unbearable sorrow. The tiny coffin passes, its unyielding blackness a stark contrast to the ethereal, shifting gray of the fog. You realize that its physical lightness is a cruel deception, for the weight it carries is immeasurable, the weight of shattered dreams, of unspoken futures, of a life that barely had a chance to bloom. And in this chilling, quiet tableau, you understand that sometimes the greatest burdens are those that offer no resistance, no tangible mass, but crush the human spirit with an unbearable, profound lightness, a ghost of what might have been, carried away into the Halloween night. The chilling image of the small coffin and the oppressive weight of grief still cling to the edges of your mind. But now, a new sound, sharp and insistent, rips through the fog-dampened quiet. It's a tiny, high-pitched squeak, quickly followed by a frantic, scuttling scrabble that seems to emanate from within the very walls themselves. It's not a human sound, not a moan or a whisper. It's something small, unseen, and utterly desperate, a frantic dance of tiny claws and feet against hidden wood and plaster. You stop dead in the middle of a narrow, shadowed alley, the pervasive chill of the night seeping deeper into your bones. You turn your head, trying to pinpoint the origin of the sound. It seems to come from an old, crumbling tenement building, its windows like hollow eyes peering through the dense fog. The building appears utterly deserted, its facade a grim tapestry of peeling paint and broken panes, yet the sounds persist, a restless internal energy that belies its external stillness. The air here, apart from the coal and damp, carries a faint, sickly sweet smell, like stale refuse and something vaguely ammoniac, a familiar scent of neglect. You press your ear close to the cold, damp brickwork, a futile effort to gain clarity. The squeak scrabble seems to intensify, then fade, then return with renewed vigor, a frustrating, inconsistent rhythm. It moves too, a shifting presence, as if whatever is making the sound is scurrying along unseen pathways, traversing the hidden cavities between the inner and outer walls. You imagine tiny, desperate bodies, propelled by an instinct for survival, forever trapped within the unseen labyrinth of the building's decaying structure, forever trying to break free. A sudden, higher-pitched squeal pierces the air, followed by a more violent, sustained scrabbling, as if a struggle is unfolding just inches from your head. Behind the unyielding brick, your heart gives a sudden lurch, a knot of unease tightening in your stomach. It's a raw, visceral sound of primal fear, a brief, sharp battle for dominance, or perhaps just for survival, in the dark, unseen spaces. Then, as abruptly as it began, the more frantic sounds cease, replaced by a softer, almost defeated, occasional tap-tap that slowly fades into utter silence. Only the faint, almost imperceptible rustle remains, a nervous tremor in the decaying timbers. You pull back from the wall, a shiver running down your spine that has nothing to do with the cold. The fog, ever present, seems to press in closer, amplifying the sense of hidden life, hidden struggles. In a world that is otherwise so quiet and still, you stare at the blank, impenetrable brickwork, knowing that just beyond its surface, an entire, unseen world teems with life and death, with frantic escapes and silent captures. And you realize that sometimes the true horrors of the city are not the grand, visible spectacles, but the tiny, desperate struggles that unfold in the hidden cracks and crevices. A constant, unseen battle for existence that plays out with only the thin walls of London's decaying buildings as its witness. The subtle, defeated tap-tap from within the walls has finally vanished, leaving a heavy, expectant quiet in its wake. The lingering smell of stale refuse and ammonia hangs sharp in the damp air, a silent testament to the unseen life scurrying in the gloom. But now a new sound cuts through the silence, utterly distinct and chillingly deliberate. A low, guttural growl followed by a sharp, agitated bark. It's too close, too real to be dismissed as an echo. A sound of predatory intent that makes the hairs on the back of your neck prickle. You instinctively press yourself back into the deepest shadow of the crumbling tenement, trying to disappear into the fog. Your gaze sweeps the narrow alley, straining to pierce the impenetrable gray. The barking intensifies, now accompanied by the unmistakable thud of heavy paws on wet cobblestones and a harsh, labored breathing. A new scent assaults your nostrils, wet dog, mingled with something musky and feral, the scent of the hunter and the hunted, sharp and primal. Then, from the swirling depths of the fog, a grotesque shape emerges. It's a man, his frame broad and stooped, his face barely visible beneath a wide, dark hat. He moves with a determined, almost violent stride, clutching a long, thin stick in one hand, its end tipped with something dark and menacing. But it's not the man that truly captures your attention. It's the creature at his heels. A dog, but unlike any you've seen on the streets. Lean, wiry, its coat matted and dark, its eyes gleaming with a fierce, unwavering intensity. Its snout is long and sharp, its ears pricked, twitching, utterly focused on something unseen in the murk. Its low growl is a constant, vibrating threat. The man, the rat catcher, moves with a brutal efficiency, His eyes, though obscured by shadow and fog, seem to bore into the unseen corners of the alley, his head turning, listening, almost smelling the prey. The dog, his silent accomplice, moves with an unsettling synchronicity, a living extension of its master's will. It suddenly lunges, a blur of dark fur, towards a pile of discarded crates in the deepest shadow. There's a sharp, frantic squeak, 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 far more desperate than before, followed by a sickening snap and a final choked whimper. The dog retreats, its jaws working, a silent, triumphant glint in its eyes. The man simply watches, an unreadable expression on his face, before gesturing with his stick to another dark recess. You stand frozen, a silent witness to this brutal, age-old dance of predator and prey. The fog, once a source of mystery and dread, now seems a perfect stage for this grim spectacle, concealing and revealing in equal measure. The cold, damp air bites at your skin, but the chill that truly permeates you is the stark reality of this vicious hunt, played out in the hidden corners of the city. You realize that in London, especially on a Halloween night, the ghosts are not always ethereal. Sometimes they are visceral, tangible horrors, the brutal necessities of survival, the primal instinct of the hunt, and the chilling, undeniable presence of death, brought forth from the depths of the city's underbelly, enacted not by spirits, but by flesh and blood, in the relentless pursuit of order, however grim. The primal growls of the rat-catcher's dog and the desperate squeaks of its prey have long faded into the city's background hum. But now, a completely different sound slices through the persistent damp. It's a sharp, mechanical hiss, followed by a distinctive, hollow thump. Not organic, not natural, but utterly man-made, precise, and curiously compelling. It suggests an underlying, unseen network, a pulse of activity far beneath the surface chaos of the fog-bound streets. You find yourself standing on a surprisingly well-lit thoroughfare, the gas lamps here a little brighter, a little less consumed by the encroaching mist. The air still carries the familiar London mix of coal and damp, but beneath it, a faint metallic tang hints at machinery, at industry working tirelessly even through the night. Your attention is drawn to a plain, unassuming building, its windows dark and uninviting. But from within its solid brick facade, the hiss and thump emanate with unnerving regularity, a steady, rhythmic heartbeat of unseen communications. You move closer, drawn by the strange, insistent sounds. You discover a small, brass-plated contraption set into the wall, a gleaming, polished anomaly in the otherwise drab streetscape. It's a pneumatic tube station, a marvel of modern engineering, connecting distant parts of the city with lightning speed. You lean in, curiosity battling the lingering unease of the night. The brass feels cold and smooth beneath your gloved fingers, a testament to efficiency and a stark contrast to the rough brickwork surrounding it. Then, with a sudden pronounced hiss of escaping air, a metallic capsule shoots out from the opening, landing with a soft, precise thump into a waiting receptacle. The capsule is cylindrical, gleaming slightly in the weak light, its purpose immediately obvious. It contains messages, documents, secrets perhaps, whisked across the city with invisible force. A figure, almost a ghost in the dim light, materializes from a nearby doorway, moves with brisk, practiced efficiency, retrieves the capsule, and vanishes back into the building, all without a single glance or a spoken word. The entire interaction is silent, quick, and devoid of any human emotion, a purely functional exchange, Another hiss begins, building in intensity, the sound of compressed air doing its work, speeding another unseen capsule through the hidden arteries of the city. You imagine the network beneath your feet, a maze of metallic pipes, carrying unseen messages, connecting unseen minds, linking the city's disparate corners with a cold, impersonal efficiency. It's a stark contrast to the organic, chaotic life you've witnessed tonight, a demonstration of humanity's drive to control, to communicate, to impose order even on the most unwieldy city. You stand there, a silent witness to this mechanical marvel, this cold, precise heartbeat in the heart of the fog. The rhythm of the asterisk hiss and thump becomes hypnotic, a steady pulse in the relentless night. You realize that even as the city struggles against the chaos of fog and human desperation, there is another, hidden world of silent, efficient communication, a web of tubes carrying secrets and commands across unseen distances. And you wonder how many destinies are shaped, how many lives are altered by these unseen, swift messages whispered through the underground. A constant, powerful undercurrent beneath the bewildering, haunted surface of London. The metallic tang of the pneumatic tube system still pricks at your senses, mingled with the pervasive damp of the London fog. The rhythmic hiss and thump of incoming capsules has become a hypnotic pulse in the relentless night, a testament to the city's unseen veins of communication. You find yourself still standing near the brass-plated contraption, its cool, smooth surface, a stark contrast to the rough brickwork of the old building, a silent witness to the unseen messages zipping beneath the streets. Suddenly, the familiar hiss that precedes a capsule's arrival stretches out, a prolonged, almost strained exhalation of air. Unlike the brisk efficiency you'd observed before, it seems to vibrate with an unnerving tension, building slowly before the next capsule finally shoots forth. The thump as it lands in the receptacle is sharper this time, heavier, with a faint, almost sickly metallic clang that echoes oddly in the fog-laden air. A cold prickle travels down your spine. This feels different. The figure, the same brisk, efficient operator, emerges from the doorway. Their movements are usually so precise, so devoid of hesitation. But as they reach for this particular capsule, there's a flicker. A minute pause, a tightening of the jaw, barely perceptible in the dim light. Their gloved fingers close around the metallic cylinder. But instead of the immediate, fluid motion of retrieval, their hand hovers for a fraction of a second, almost as if the capsule itself carries an unexpected weight, an unseen chill. You watch, transfixed, a knot forming in your stomach. They retrieve it, their movements then quickening, almost hurried, as if wanting to be rid of it. They don't glance at you, their head bowed, but you sense an intensity, a focused disquiet. For the briefest of moments as they turn to re-enter the building, a corner of the parchment message, partially unwrapped, slips from the capsule's opening, catching the weak gaslight. You catch a glimpse. Not a full word, not a sentence, but a fragment of a drawing, a stylized symbol, a jagged, almost claw-like mark, hastily rendered, dark against the pale paper. It flashes, chillingly, into your vision before being swiftly tucked away, vanished back into the capsule, and then into the building. The heavy metallic tang in the air suddenly feels sharper, colder. The rhythmic hoo-won of the tubes continues, but now it carries a new, unsettling undercurrent, a mechanical whisper of something dark and urgent. You stand there, the fleeting image of that jagged mark burned into your mind, you realize that some warnings are not shouted, not overtly spoken, but travel through the hidden veins of a city, delivered by an impersonal system, an unseen hand, a silent messenger carrying a cryptic, chilling truth that leaves you with only a fleeting glimpse and the heavy, undeniable weight of its implication. The faint, cryptic image of the jagged mark still pricks at your mind, an unsettling whisper from the pneumatic tube. But now that subtle tension is overwhelmed by a deafening, visceral assault. It's a deep, grinding foray or a rhythmic, mechanical behemoth that vibrates up through your boots, through the very ground itself, making your teeth ache. This isn't a natural sound. It's the powerful, relentless thrum of colossal machinery, a primal industrial heartbeat that cuts through the fog with an almost physical force. You push through the dense, swirling gray, drawn by the sheer magnitude of the noise. The air, already thick with coal and damp, now carries a pungent, chemical smell, utterly distinct from anything you've encountered tonight. It's the sharp, metallic tang of hot metal, mingled with the heavy, oily sweetness of printing ink and the distinct, papery scent of freshly pressed newsprint. It's a powerful, almost intoxicating aroma, a dizzying blend of industry and information that saturates your lungs with every breath. As you round a corner, the source of the roar explodes into view. A cavernous building, its windows ablaze with a fierce, blinding yellow light that slices through the densest fog, revealing a frenzy of ceaseless activity. Inside, colossal printing presses churn, their massive gears grinding, their rollers clanking and thundering with an unholy rhythm. You can feel the vibrations in your chest, a relentless, powerful pulse. Figures dart between the machines, shadowy, hurried forms, their faces smeared with ink, their movements precise and frantic, like worker ants in a monumental hive. The heat from the presses radiates outwards, a dry, intense warmth that pushes back the cold, damp fog from the immediate vicinity, creating a stark, unsettling contrast. Sheets of newsprint, pristine and white at one end, race through the rollers, emerging at the other stained with bold black type. They fly through the air, carried by unseen hands or intricate mechanisms, piling up in enormous stacks, forming fresh, pungent mountains of paper. The entire scene is a whirlwind of motion, noise, and industry, a relentless, tireless engine of information. You stand at the edge of this industrial maelstrom, mesmerized by the sheer power and scale of it. The stench of ink fills your head, a potent, chemical cocktail that seems to ignite your very senses. The roar of the presses is deafening, making conversation impossible, reducing thought to a frantic, disjointed scramble. You can almost feel the words, the news, the stories, being hammered into existence, flung out into the bewildering night. And as you stand there, battered by the noise and the scent, you realize that this is where the unseen whispers of the city are made manifest, where the cryptic warnings become headlines, where the chaos of a haunted Halloween night is transformed into stark, black facts. This roaring, inky heart of London doesn't just print papers. It prints reality. It stamps out understanding, sometimes even before the events themselves have fully unfolded. And you wonder what chilling truths, what fresh horrors are being born in this thundering, inky darkness, ready to be unleashed upon a fog-bound city, The deep, grinding roar of the colossal printing presses still thunders around you, a relentless, powerful pulse that seems to shake the very foundations of the city. The air remains thick with the pungent, intoxicating aroma of hot metal, fresh paper, and printing ink, a heady, chemical cocktail that saturates your lungs. But now, amidst this deafening clamor, your gaze sharpens, drawn to the relentless river of paper emerging from the churning machines. You lean closer, jostled by the hurried movements of shadowy figures darting between the presses, their hands smeared black. Sheets of newsprint, still warm from the rollers, fly past in a continuous stream. You snatch a fleeting glimpse of the content. It's not simply dry reports. It's bold, sensational headlines, stark and black against the stark white paper. Your eyes trace the heavy type, phrases screaming out in large, blocky letters. Horror in Whitechapel. Unspeakable atrocities. The Ripper's shadow. Each word is a hammer blow, stark and terrifying, rendered in indelible ink, a grim birth on the page. And then you see it. Interspersed between the lurid headlines are crude, striking woodcut illustrations, stark black and white images of shadowy figures, of gaslit alleyways, of distorted, fear-stricken faces. For a chilling instant, your eyes catch on a particular detail in one of these rough drawings. A jagged, almost claw-like mark, hastily etched, yet unmistakably familiar. It's the very symbol you glimpsed on the cryptic message from the pneumatic tube, now reproduced, multiplied, thrown into the public eye with brutal clarity. A cold wave washes over you, deeper than the pervasive damp. The whisper from the wires has become a shout in the streets. The workers, their faces grimed with ink, handle these sheets with an almost detached efficiency, their movements mechanical, repetitive. They grab the fresh prints, folding them with practiced snaps, creating piles of these, penny dreadfuls, ready to be hawked in the fog-bound streets. There's no emotion in their gestures, only the relentless drive of production, pushing the fear, the horror, the sensation out into the unsuspecting night. You can almost feel the chill emanating from these pages, a cold, printed terror destined to spread through every corner of London. You pull back, the roar of the presses suddenly feeling like the scream of 1,000 terrified voices, the ink-laden air a suffocating blanket. The sight of those headlines, that chilling symbol, churned out endlessly, takes root deep within you. This isn't just news. It's a new kind of haunting, born of paper and ink, designed to burrow into the public consciousness, to magnify the fear. You realize that the presses don't just print stories. They forge dread, crafting phantoms that walk not in the mist, but in the minds of men. A grim harvest sown by the mechanical heart of the city, forever echoing in the dark corners of a Halloween night. The metallic inky tang of the penny dreadful still smarts in your memory, a ghostly aftertaste of fear and sensation. But now a far more insidious flavor invades your mouth. It's the unmistakable heavy taste of stagnant water, thick with mineral deposits and a chilling undertone of decay. It coats your tongue, raw and flat, a taste of forgotten reservoirs and stagnant pools, mingled with the pervasive dampness that seems to seep into your very bones. You find yourself in a subterranean gloom, far beneath the bustling, fog-shrouded streets. The air is heavy, still, completely devoid of fresh movement, trapping the putrid aroma. The stone walls around you weep with perpetual moisture, slick and cold to the touch, their rough surfaces barely visible in the absolute darkness. No gas lamps here, only the barest, furthest hint of phosphorescence, like dying embers struggling against the profound black. Each breath feels like drinking in the damp, tasting the very essence of forgotten places, of unmoving time. Your boots slosh softly in unseen puddles, the cold water immediately soaking through the worn leather. The ground is uneven, treacherous, littered with unknown debris that crunches softly underfoot. You reach out, your hand sweeping through the thick, wet air, searching for a solid surface, but find only the profound emptiness. The stale taste in your mouth grows stronger, a bitter companion that gnaws at your resolve. Your throat feels tight, a dry ache that no amount of this foul-tasting air can soothe. Every inhalation pulls more of the desolation into your lungs, a physical manifestation of hopelessness. A faint, distant drip echoes somewhere deeper in the darkness. A lonely, monotonous sound that only emphasizes the vast, oppressive silence. You imagine ancient conduits, choked and broken, their contents seeping into the earth, collecting in these hidden hollows. The sheer, inescapable dampness presses in on you, a cold, unyielding blanket that smothers any warmth, any light, any trace of life. You shiver, a convulsion that starts deep in your chest and racks your entire frame. Here, in this forgotten space, bathed in the taste of stale water and the heavy cloak of obscurity, you realize that despair is not just an emotion. It has a physical essence, a raw, undeniable taste that coats your tongue, an unseen chill that settles deep in your bones, a constant reminder of how easily life can be reduced to this, to a desperate clinging to breath in a world devoid of light and hope. Sometimes, the most haunting thing is not what you see, but what you consume, a flavor of utter hopelessness that becomes irrevocably part of you. The taste of stale water, flat and metallic, still coats your tongue, a grim companion in this suffocating subterranean gloom. Your boots continue to slosh softly in unseen puddles, the cold, murky water an insistent presence around your ankles. The air hangs thick and heavy, laden with the damp breath of forgotten earth and slow decay. You continue to navigate the treacherous darkness, one cautious step after another, your outstretched hand sweeping the unseen space before you, feeling for any obstacle, any sign of direction in this profound black. Then, your fingers brush against something solid, embedded in the cold, wet silt of the ground. It's not a rock, not debris, but something softer, yet strangely firm. You crouch down, the water chilling your knees through your trousers, and carefully, meticulously, your fingers explore the object. It's small, almost delicate, a thin piece of worked metal, cool against your skin. As you free it from the mud's tenacious grip, you hold it up, trying to catch the barest glimmer of the distant faint phosphorescence. It's a locket. Not gleaming gold, but tarnished, dull silver, worn smooth by countless touches. The clasp is broken, the hinges stiff, but it still holds a faint, familiar weight in your palm. As you rub away the clinging silt with your thumb, your fingers tracing the faint, almost indiscernible floral etching on its surface, a subtle scent rises from it. It's not the rot of the tunnels, but a ghostly, faint whisper of something else. Dried lavender, perhaps, or a faded rose, a delicate perfume long gone, almost imperceptible. It's a scent of sunlight, of warmth, utterly out of place in this suffocating darkness. You try to open the locket, to peer inside, but it resists, sealed by age and corrosion. Yet simply holding it, feeling the smooth, cold metal, you sense the echoes of a life. Not a ghost in the spectral sense, but the lingering imprint of a person, a story contained within this small, forgotten trinket. You imagine a neck it once rested upon, a heart it lay close to, hands that opened and closed it with tenderness or sorrow. It speaks of sunshine, of whispered secrets, of a life lived above ground, vibrant and full, before it was swallowed by the cold indifference of this forgotten underworld. The contrast is stark, the profound, cold despair of this place, and the tiny, fragile spark of human connection held within the locket. It makes you realize that even when a body is long gone, when all light has vanished, remnants of a life can persist, sometimes found in the most desolate corners. And in that moment, clutching the cold metal, you understand that some of the most powerful ghosts are not those that moan and wail, but those that remain silent, their stories whispered through forgotten objects, echoing the unbearable lightness of a former life, forever haunting the grim undercurrents of time. The ghost of a former life, whispering through the tarnished locket, has finally faded from your senses, leaving only the damp chill of the subterranean passage. But abruptly, that profound quiet is shattered. A deep, resonant V-O-Ng rips through the fog-laden air, a sound so immense it feels less heard and more physically felt. It vibrates up through the cold ground, through your very boots, lodging itself deep in your chest. This is no ordinary clock chime. This is the unmistakable, slow, heavy toll of an execution bell, its mournful drone stretching out, drawing all other sounds into its vast, melancholic embrace. You emerge from a narrow, shadowed alleyway, stumbling slightly onto a wider street. The fog, denser here than ever before, seems to absorb all light, allowing only the faintest, sickly halos from distant gas lamps. Yet, the sound of the bell cuts through it all, a relentless, sorrowful heartbeat. Bo-ong. The silence between each stroke is almost more profound than the sound itself, a suffocating void that seems to hold its breath in anticipation of the next inevitable toll. The air, already thick with coal and damp, now feels heavy with an unspoken dread, a cold pallor settling over everything. You find yourself instinctively pulling your coat tighter, a shiver running down your spine that has nothing to do with the biting cold. Your head snaps up, trying to pierce the impenetrable gray. Where's it coming from? The sound seems to emanate from everywhere and nowhere, amplified and distorted by the fog, giving it an ethereal, almost spectral quality. You see other figures in the gloom, appearing and disappearing like phantoms. They too are still, their heads cocked, their gazes unfocused, all caught in the same frozen moment of communal apprehension, their faces grim, unreadable in the poor light. A few clutch their hats, as if bracing against an unseen impact, or perhaps simply showing respect for the grim ritual unfolding somewhere out of sight. Another toll. It's slower than you expect, stretching out the agony, making each interval a lingering moment of profound, shared finality. You feel a knot tighten in your stomach, a chilling awareness of human life reaching its abrupt, preordained end. This isn't a sudden, chaotic death. This is a measured public spectacle, an orderly extinguishing of a soul, marked by the slow, deliberate rhythm of the bell. You imagine the scene somewhere just beyond the fog's impenetrable curtain, a platform, a crowd, and a solitary figure facing their last moments, all accompanied by this solemn, inescapable sound. The bell tolls again, boing. Each stroke is a heavy, inescapable truth, a grim reminder of justice, or perhaps simply of inevitability. You stand there, lost in the vast mournful drone, the taste of cold damp in your mouth. You realize that this sound isn't just a signal of death, it's a profound collective sigh for the end of a life, a stark, public pronouncement that rips through the individual fears and hidden stories of the night. And you wonder how many times this sound has echoed through these fog-bound streets, a constant, chilling reminder that even in the most chaotic city, life's final moments can be met with such chilling, measured precision, a powerful, mournful drone that haunts the very air of London. The last mournful dams of the execution bell finally dies away, its immense resonance lingering in the very bones of the fog-bound city. A profound, almost suffocating silence descends in its wake, heavier, colder than any quiet you've known tonight. It's not just an absence of sound, it's a tangible collective holding of breath, a moment where an entire city seems to pause, caught in the invisible wake of a life just extinguished. The pervasive dampness in the air feels thicker, pressing in on you, amplifying the sense of an ending. You stand utterly still, your gaze fixed on the impenetrable gray ahead, as if expecting the fog itself to part and reveal the grim scene that just concluded. Your heart, which moments ago throbbed with the bell's rhythm, now feels too loud, its frantic beat a jarring anomaly in the absolute quiet. The taste of coal and damp in your mouth becomes sharper, almost bitter, a physical manifestation of the grim reality that has just unfolded. Around you, the phantom figures of other passers-by, those who were caught in the bell's solemn grip, remain frozen. Some stand with bowed heads. Others stare into the swirling mist, their faces unreadable, their stillness a shared testament to the gravity of the moment. No one speaks, no one moves. Not yet. The minutes stretch out, long and heavy, each second infused with an unspoken weight. The air itself feels brittle, as if the slightest movement, the smallest sound, could shatter this fragile collective trance. You can almost feel the myriad individual thoughts, the private anxieties, the shared sense of morbid fascination, all held in abeyance, waiting for the signal to resume the chaotic dance of city life. The fog, a silent accomplice, ensures that the actual mechanics of death remain a mystery, turning a public execution into a hauntingly private experience for each witness, a shared horror conjured in the mind's eye. A solitary cough rips through the silence from somewhere far down the street, harsh and abrupt, breaking the spell. Then, very slowly, almost reluctantly, a collective sigh seems to ripple through the unseen crowd. Shoulders loosen, heads lift, and the phantom figures begin to stir, to move, their slow, uncertain footsteps breaking the silence with a soft, scuffing sound. The spell is broken. The grim ritual is over. The city begins to breathe again, slowly, cautiously, as if re-emerging from a communal nightmare. You stand there, a cold knot still tight in your stomach, the lingering echoes of the bell resounding deep within you. The experience is chilling, a stark reminder of the fragile thread that binds life to this world, and the chilling, public spectacle of its severing. And in that shared, breathless pause, as a city collectively waits for death, you realize how profoundly human it is to both dread and anticipate such moments, to be drawn to the stark boundary between existence and oblivion, forever defined by the heavy, silent weight of shared finality. The lingering, profound silence after the execution bell has finally dissolved, leaving only the biting cold and the taste of coal and damp. But abruptly, an entirely new sensation cuts through the oppressive grimness. It's a delicate, utterly unexpected fragrance, so pure and sweet that it feels like a sudden gasp of spring air in the heart of this haunted Halloween night. Violets. A rich, floral perfume, impossibly vibrant, pushing back against the stench of refuse and wet earth, creating an aromatic island in the vast ocean of London's pervasive grime. You stop dead, your breath catching in your throat, trying to reconcile this burst of delicate beauty with the harsh reality of the fog-choked street. The scent pulls you, an invisible thread through the persistent gray, guiding your hesitant steps. You push through the relentless mist, your boots sloshing through unseen muddy puddles, the subtle, ladrous splash squelch of your progress, the only sound. The perfume strengthens, becoming almost intoxicating, a vibrant pulse in the otherwise dull, muted world. Then you see her. Huddled against a crumbling brick wall, barely visible in the anemic glow of a distant gas lamp, sits a figure. She is small, bent, her head wrapped in a coarse shawl, her face obscured by shadows in the fog's embrace. Her hands, gnarled and raw, move with a practiced, almost tender efficiency. And there, arranged carefully in chipped ceramic bowls filled with murky, cold water, are the source of the intoxicating scent. An explosion of deep, velvety purple and vibrant emerald green. Dozens of tiny bunches of violets. They are an astonishing sight, a defiant burst of color against the monotonous gray and brown of the alley. Each small bloom, perfectly formed, seems to glow with an inner light, radiating a fragile yet fierce beauty. The muddy water they sit in, the grimy wall behind them, the very air saturated with London's filth, none of it seems to diminish their delicate brilliance. They exist in stark, almost aggressive, contrast to their surroundings, a tenacious spark of life in a desolate landscape. You hesitate, drawn to this impossible tableau of purity and squalor. The old woman, without lifting her head, seems to sense your presence. Her eyes, ancient and world-weary, briefly flick up to meet yours, a flicker of something ancient and knowing passing between you, before she returns to her meticulous arrangement of the blossoms. You reach out, your gloved finger brushing against the cold, soft petals of a single violet. It feels impossibly delicate, yet fiercely alive, a tangible piece of resilience in your hand. You stand there, a silent witness to this unexpected miracle, this small, defiant act of beauty, in the heart of despair. The lingering sweetness of the violets fills your lungs, a balm against the city's harsh breath. And in that moment, surrounded by the overwhelming muck and cold of a Halloween night, you realize that even in the most desolate corners, where hope seems to have utterly vanished, beauty can still bloom. It's a fragile, enduring testament to life's tenacious spirit, a vibrant, purple promise that even the deepest darkness cannot entirely extinguish. A ghost of spring, stubbornly persisting in the face of winter. The rich, sweet perfume of violets still clings to the air around you, a beautiful, impossible anomaly in the reeking gloom. You hold a single bloom in your gloved hand, its soft petals, a fragile defiance against the pervasive cold and damp. The old woman, the flower seller, remains hunched, her gnarled fingers methodically arranging her precious wares in their murky bowls. Her ancient eyes, though, lift again, not to you directly, but to the swirling fog beyond the narrow alley, a flicker of something guarded, a deep, unsettling wisdom in their depths. A figure emerges from the dense, swirling gray at the alley's mouth, a tall, impeccably dressed man. His silhouette is sharp, his expensive overcoat, a stark contrast to the rough brickwork and the pervasive grime. He moves with a quiet confidence, his polished boots making almost no sound on the wet cobblestones. He approaches the flower seller, his presence radiating an aura of wealth and privilege, cutting through the humble desperation of the alley like a knife. The delicate scent of the violets for a moment seems to intensify, then subtly shifts, acquiring a new, almost cloying sweetness, as if struggling to maintain its purity against this new, imposing force. The man pauses before the old woman, his shadow falling across her and her vibrant blooms. He doesn't speak. He simply reaches a gloved hand into his coat, extracts a single coin, gleaming, substantial, and places it in one of her rough, calloused palms. He doesn't wait for change. Instead, his other hand reaches out, not for a bunch of violets, but for a single, perfect bloom from a small, particularly vibrant cluster. His fingers are long, elegant, utterly precise. He plucks the flower with a detached grace, almost an act of appropriation. He lifts the violet, bringing it to his nose, inhaling deeply, his eyes closing for a fleeting moment. A strange, unreadable expression crosses his face, a mask of fleeting pleasure, quickly replaced by a cold, almost predatory calculation. He doesn't offer a smile, not a word. He simply tucks the single precious flower into the lapel of his immaculate coat, a tiny, vibrant splash of purple against the deep, rich black of his fabric. The act is almost violent in its understated elegance, a stark contrast to the desperation of its purchase. Then, with a nod that is almost imperceptible, he turns and melts back into the fog, his imposing silhouette quickly dissolving into the endless gray. The old woman watches him go, her expression unreadable, before returning to her arrangements, her movements a little slower, a little more resigned. The faint, sweet perfume of the violets, though still present, feels diminished now, somehow tainted by the interaction. You stand there, a silent witness to this small, unsettling tableau. The single violet, once a defiant burst of life, now pinned to the man's coat, seems less like an emblem of beauty and more like a carefully chosen accessory, a fleeting mask worn against the city's grim realities. You realize that in a world as stark as Victorian London, beauty, even in its most delicate forms, can be bought, used, and then discarded, and that sometimes the most profound masks are not those made of linen and lace, but those that exploit and appropriate natural beauty transforming it into a mere adornment, a fleeting distraction from the deeper, darker truths that lurk beneath the surface of a haunted Halloween night. The faint, delicate perfume of violets has finally faded, swallowed by the relentless damp and the overarching smell of coal. You walk through a stretch of street where the gas lamps are few and far between, the fog thicker, a near absolute shroud that presses in on all sides. The profound darkness is almost complete, broken only by the occasional, momentary flicker of a distant, indistinct light. Your footsteps are muted, almost swallowed by the dense air, a solitary rhythm in an otherwise empty world. Suddenly, a harsh, grating scrape rips through the quiet, shockingly loud in the profound stillness. It's followed instantly by a sharp, acrid burst of smell, potent and metallic. Sulfur. So strong it makes your eyes water, pricking at the back of your throat. And then, a tiny, defiant flare of intense, blinding yellow-orange light explodes into existence just ahead, a pinpoint sun in the absolute black. It's a matchstick, struck with a desperate, practiced flick. For a brief, dazzling moment, the tiny flame illuminates a small, immediate sphere around it. You see rough brickwork, slick with moisture, beads of water clinging to the ancient stone. You see the outline of a hand, thin and trembling, cupped around the fragile flame, trying to protect it from the hungry fog. And for a fleeting, impossible instant, you see the face of a child, no older than 10, perhaps 12, their features gaunt, drawn tight with cold and hunger, their eyes wide and desperate, reflecting the tiny, fierce light. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the flame wavers, struggles, and with a final, heartbreaking fizzle, it dies, plunging the world back into profound darkness, leaving only the lingering sting of sulfur in your nose. The silence that follows is immense, almost painful. You stand there, the sharp sulfuric tang still tickling your nostrils, the ghostly image of the child's desperate face burned into your memory. You want to call out, to reach into the darkness, but the moment is gone, swallowed by the relentless gloom. The cold that settles back upon you is deeper now, infused with a new, profound sadness, a chilling testament to the fragile brevity of hope. You take a hesitant step forward, then another, straining your eyes against the absolute black. Nothing. Only the omnipresent fog, the damp chill, and the overwhelming sense of loss. You realize that even in the vast, indifferent darkness of London's Halloween night, a single, tiny spark, struck from desperation, can cut through the gloom with shocking brilliance, illuminating a profound human truth before vanishing as quickly as it came. And you wonder how many such brief, desperate flares ignite and die in the vast, unseen corners of this city, each one a fleeting cry against the encroaching darkness. A tiny, flickering ghost of warmth in an ocean of cold. The sharp, sulfuric sting from the matchstick has finally faded, but the chilling memory of the child's desperate face, illuminated for a fleeting instant, still haunts the edges of your vision. You find yourself adrift in a profound, almost absolute darkness, the fog so thick it feels like a heavy velvet curtain draped over the world. Your every step is cautious, a slow, uncertain shuffle on the slick, unseen cobblestones. The damp cold gnaws at your fingers, seeps into your bones, a relentless, pervasive ache. Then, from the impenetrable blackness directly ahead, a new light blossoms, not sudden and fierce like the match, but soft, warm, and inviting. It's an impossible vision, a roaring fire, its flames a cheerful, dancing orange, contained within an ornate grate. The light pulses, gentle and steady, pushing back against the encroaching gloom with a serene warmth. For a fleeting moment, the air around you seems to grow warmer, a phantom touch of heat on your chilled face, carrying with it a faint, comforting scent of burning oak and seasoned hearth smoke. You take a step closer, mesmerized by the improbable sight. The fire is framed by a pristine window, its glass sparkling clean, utterly devoid of the usual London grime and condensation. Through the impossible clarity, you catch a glimpse of an interior. Not a grand hall, but a cozy, intimate room. A polished wooden table, set with gleaming porcelain, a comfortable armchair, its velvet upholstery, a deep, inviting crimson. And on the table, a steaming teapot, a pair of delicate cups, and a plate of golden buttered crumpets. The scene is one of perfect domestic bliss, a warm, safe harbor against the terrifying chaos of the fog-bound night. Your gaze lingers on the details, the gentle curl of steam from the teapot, the tiny inviting glint on the porcelain rim. You can almost feel the softness of the armchair, hear the contented crackle of the fire, taste the warmth of the tea. It is a vision of everything this night is not: security, comfort, warmth, and an almost unbearable sense of peace. You feel an immense, aching longing well up within you, a desperate desire to step into that impossible warmth, to leave the biting cold and the lurking fears behind. But even as the longing takes hold, the vision begins to waver. The edges of the clean window shimmer, blur, then distort. The roaring fire flickers, its flames elongating into unnatural, hungry tendrils. The porcelain cups wobble. The crumpets lose their golden glow, the entire scene shimmering like a mirage. The comforting warmth recedes, replaced by the bitter, relentless cold of the fog, and with a final, heartbreaking ripple, the entire tableau dissolves, swallowed instantly back into the profound, featureless darkness, leaving only the taste of coal and damp on your tongue. You stand there, lost once more in the absolute black, the phantom warmth, a cruel memory on your skin. The fleeting vision was just that, a ghost, a dream, a tormenting glimpse of what could not be. And in that moment, in the deepest, most isolating fog, you realize how profoundly alluring such illusions can be, how desperately the human spirit yearns for warmth and comfort in the face of relentless cold and despair. Sometimes, the most haunting visions are not those that terrify, but those that promise a fleeting, impossible glimpse of escape, only to snatch it away, leaving you with nothing but the profound, aching emptiness of longing. The phantom warmth of the vanished vision has dissolved, leaving only the biting cold and the pervasive taste of coal and damp. But abruptly, a sound so raw and utterly primal tears through the dense fog that it makes every nerve ending in your body scream. It's a piercing, inhuman shriek, a sound of pure, unadulterated terror and agony, echoing and distorting through the heavy air, seeming to come from every direction at once. It's followed by a cacophony of muffled bangs, desperate scratching, and a low, continuous moan that pulses beneath the initial cry, a chorus of despair. You halt, your muscles tensing, your heart hammering against your ribs with frantic intensity. The air, already thick and heavy, now feels charged with a chilling dread, as if the very atmosphere itself is vibrating with madness. The pervasive smell of coal and damp is overlaid with a faint, but distinct coppery tang, like old blood, mixed with something else. A cloying, antiseptic scent, attempting to mask a deeper, more organic odor of human fear and confinement. You push through the fog, drawn by a terrifying compulsion, the echoing shrieks pulling you deeper into the unknown. The gas lamps here are fewer, their light weaker, swallowed almost entirely by the oppressive gray. You find yourself in front of a vast, formidable building, its windows barred, its stone walls rising high into the unseen sky, a grim, unyielding fortress in the mist. No light escapes its windows, only the horrifying symphony of sounds that seem to erupt from within its very foundations. The shrieks intensify, becoming a desperate, ragged chorus. You hear wild, desperate laughter, suddenly cut off by a heavy, dull thud. The metallic clang of chains, rhythmic and chilling, accompanies a low, guttural chanting that rises and falls with unnerving regularity. You press your gloved hands to your ears, but the sounds penetrate, vibrating deep within your skull, a relentless assault on your sanity. You imagine the unseen figures within, their minds shattered, their bodies confined, their screams and moans a testament to unimaginable torment. A small, high window, barred and dark, is momentarily illuminated by an internal flickering light. For a split second, you catch a glimpse of a face pressed against the cold glass. A distorted, pale visage, its eyes wide and vacant, its mouth open in a silent scream. Then, the light vanishes, the face disappears, and the window becomes just another dark rectangle in the impenetrable wall. The shrieks echo again, louder, more desperate, as if in response to your fleeting glimpse. You pull back, a profound, icy fear gripping your entire being. This is not the supernatural haunting of a ghost. This is the terrifying, tangible horror of human suffering, amplified and distorted by the impenetrable fog, emanating from the heart of a place designed to contain the broken minds of men. And in that moment, battered by the echoing shrieks of the madhouse, you realize that some of the most profound terrors are not those conjured from the supernatural, but those that spring from the depths of human despair and confinement. A chilling, inescapable reality that echoes through the very fabric of London's haunted Halloween night. The echoing shrieks of the madhouse still resonate in your ears, a raw, persistent assault on your nerves. The air, heavy with the metallic tang of old blood and the cloying scent of cheap disinfectant, feels cold and oppressive. You stand before the formidable, barred edifice, the pervasive fog swirling around its grim walls, muffling its horrifying symphony of human suffering into a chaotic, indistinct hum. Your heart still hammers a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a visceral response to the raw terror emanating from within. Then, from a low, barred window, barely visible in the profound gloom, a new sound emerges. It's not a shriek, not a moan, but a soft, rhythmic noni whisper, so faint it's almost lost in the general din, yet so distinct and insistent that it cuts through the chaos. Pulling at your attention with an unnerving precision, you find yourself leaning closer to the cold, damp stone, straining to catch a coherent fragment from the ceaseless murmuring. The whispers are too low to decipher, a constant, repetitive drone, yet they vibrate with an unnerving, almost rational intensity, utterly unlike the wild, broken cries surrounding them. You press your ear against the cold, rough stone, the pervasive chill seeping into your skin. The whispers, though still indecipherable, feel closer now, stronger, as if the speaker is directly on the other side of the thick wall, their lips almost touching the stone. There's a strange, unsettling clarity to the rhythm, an underlying order to the chaos of the sounds that you hadn't noticed before. It's as if someone amidst the madness is trying to communicate, to convey a truth, a warning, something desperately important, through the impenetrable barrier. Then, for a brief, startling moment, the whispers change. The rhythm breaks. A single, distinct word escapes the barrage, clear and sharp through the stone, cutting through the background moans and clangs. You can't be certain, the sound too muffled, too distorted by the wall, but it sounds like asterisk watch, or perhaps asterisk caught, or even asterisk haunted. The single word hangs in the air, a chilling, cryptic message, before dissolving back into the incessant, rhythmic murmuring. Your entire body stiffens, a wave of profound unease washing over you. The whispers continue, relentless, indecipherable once more, but now they feel different. They pulse with a chilling, almost rational urgency. You feel the profound, overwhelming weight of unseen eyes fixed on you. A gaze that penetrates the thick wall, that sees beyond the fog, that knows something you desperately don't. The antiseptic smell becomes stronger, almost suffocating, now infused with a profound, almost desperate human essence. You pull back from the wall, the cold metal tang of fear coating your tongue. The overwhelming din of the madhouse now carries a new, more profound dread. It is not just the sound of broken minds. It is the terrifying possibility of a sanity, a terrifying truth, desperately trying to break through, to reach you, to warn you from within the confines of utter madness. And in that moment, standing before the echoing madhouse on this haunted Halloween night, you realize that sometimes the most terrifying voices are not those that shriek in madness, but those that whisper with an unnerving, urgent sanity from the very heart of the abyss. The haunting whispers from the madhouse still echo in the back of your mind, a chilling whisper of a terrifying sanity. But now that chaotic chorus is slowly, inexorably overlaid by a new sound, precise and utterly relentless. It's a faint, delicate tick-tock, so subtle at first you might dismiss it. But then it grows, multiplied, amplified, until it's not a single clock, but 1,000, 10,000, a ceaseless, maddening symphony of tiny mechanical beats. It's the tyranny of 1,000 ticking clocks, all slightly out of sync, creating a shimmering, unbearable drone that drills into your skull. You find yourself on a quiet, residential street, the fog here a little thinner, revealing glimpses of ornate iron railings and grand, dark houses. The air, though still damp, carries a fainter echo of coal, replaced by a subtle, almost dusty scent of old wood and polished brass. Your gaze is drawn to a particular building, its large bay windows glowing with a soft, warm light that seems to push back against the enveloping gloom. From within its walls, the incessant dax, dax, dax emanates, a relentless, pervasive presence that fills the entire space. You approach the window, drawn by an irresistible, almost hypnotic pull. Leaning closer, you peer through the clean glass, which offers a surprisingly clear view inside. It's a clockmaker's workshop, a meticulously arranged space, filled from floor to ceiling with timepieces of every conceivable size and design. Grandfather clocks stand like silent sentinels, their pendulums swinging with slow, deliberate grace. Delicate mantel clocks gleam from shelves, their tiny hands poised. Pocket watches hang from hooks, their mechanisms exposed, gears glinting with intricate precision. Every single one of them is working. Every single one is ticking. The cumulative effect is overwhelming. The individual tick-tock of each mechanism is almost indistinguishable, blurring into a single, shimmering hum. A powerful, relentless current of time passing, ceaselessly, inexorably. You can almost feel the kinetic energy radiating from the room. 1,000 tiny, intricate hearts beating in unison, yet subtly out of sync, creating a dizzying, hypnotic rhythm that tightens a band around your head. You press your hand against the cold glass, feeling the faint, incessant vibration that hums within the very structure of the building. The air inside the workshop, though unseen, feels alive, charged with the concentrated energy of 1,000 tiny, perfect machines. It's a place of absolute order, of meticulous precision, a stark contrast to the chaotic, unpredictable nature of the fog-bound night outside. Yet, this perfect order is, in its own way, terrifying. You stand there, a silent witness to this mesmerizing, maddening spectacle. The endless tick-tock drills into your skull, a relentless reminder of every passing second, every lost moment, every inexorable movement towards an unseen future. And in that moment, surrounded by the tyranny of 1,000 ticking clocks, you realize that time itself can be a haunting presence, a relentless, unforgiving force that governs every aspect of human existence. It's a reminder that, even when the supernatural fades, the profound, inescapable reality of time's relentless march remains, a chilling, rhythmic pulse that dictates all life and all death in the haunted heart of London. The shimmering, relentless drone of 1,000 ticking clocks still drills into your skull, a ceaseless pulse that had seemed hypnotic moments ago. But now, it changes. Each precise tick-tock transforms, shifting from a mere measure of time to a stark, undeniable countdown. Each beat an unyielding step towards an unseen end. The biting cold of the fog still pricks your skin, but a deeper, colder chill has begun to settle in your chest, a premonition that tightens your breath. You find your gaze drawn back to the clockmaker's workshop, its glowing bay windows a beacon in the gloom. You press closer to the glass, the vibrating chill seeping into your gloved hands, your eyes fixed on the solitary figure within. The old watchmaker, the master of these countless mechanisms, remains seated at his workbench. He is bent low, his back curved like a question mark, his gray hair a wispy halo in the focused beam of his own small oil lamp. His magnifying glass, a gleaming cyclops eye, is screwed into his brow, allowing him an intimate view of the intricate world of gears and springs. His hands, gnarled and frail with age, yet still possessed of an astonishing, delicate precision, hold a tiny, complex pocket watch. His movements are slow, deliberate, almost ritualistic, as he attempts to fit a microscopic gear into place. You can almost feel the intense concentration emanating from him, a lifetime of skill poured into this singular, final act of creation or repair. The incessant tick-tock of the surrounding clock seems to echo his shallow, almost imperceptible breathing, a symphony of time running down. A sudden tremor runs through his hand, a barely perceptible wobble that makes the tiny gear slip from his grasp. It falls, a microscopic speck, lost instantly in the intricate landscape of his workbench. He doesn't move to retrieve it. His head, still bent, seems to sag a fraction more, his shoulders slumping with a quiet, profound weariness. The magnifying glass, still fixed to his brow, now magnifies only the emptiness of the polished wood before him. The relentless tick-tock of the workshop continues, utterly indifferent, a ceaseless march that respects no individual. You watch, frozen, as the old man's breath hitches, a soft, almost inaudible gasp that is instantly swallowed by the omnipresent ticking. His chest, which had been rising and falling with such shallow effort, ceases its movement. His hands, once so nimble and alive, come to rest, open and utterly still, on the worn surface of his bench. The oil lamp flickers once, a tiny, struggling pulse, then settles back into its steady glow, casting long, unmoving shadows across his motionless form. The only change is the absence of his subtle movements, a stillness so absolute it feels like a vacuum in the room. The thousands of clocks in the workshop continue their relentless, indifferent march, their tick-tock filling the space with a cold, uncaring precision. You stand there, a silent witness to a quiet, profound end, surrounded by the very instruments of time that this man had mastered, yet could not control for himself. And in that moment, watching the countdown of a watchmaker's final moments, you realize that for all our intricate attempts to measure, control, and manipulate time, its ultimate journey remains a solitary, unyielding march, a profound, chilling truth that silences even the most dedicated master of its intricate dance. The relentless, indifferent tick-tock of the myriad clocks still pulses in the periphery of your awareness, a fading echo of the watchmaker's final, silent moments. The profound darkness of the deepest Halloween night has begun to yield, not with a sudden burst of light, but with a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the very fabric of the fog around you. It's a change in hue, a lightening of the oppressive black to a softer, almost luminous gray. This is the first, tentative kiss of dawn, slow and ethereal, painting the world in shades of melancholy and quiet transition. You become aware of the cold, not as a biting assault, but as a deep, persistent ache in your bones, a constant companion that has woven itself into your very being. The dampness on your clothes feels heavier, colder, the accumulated moisture of an entire night spent in the heart of the London fog. The air, though still thick with coal dust, has lost some of its suffocating density, allowing a fainter, purer scent to rise, the promise of distant, fresh air struggling to break through the city's exhalations. As the gray light strengthens, ever so slightly, the world around you begins to gain definition. The blurry halos of the gas lamps, which once seemed like spectral eyes, now appear weaker, their struggling flames paling into insignificance against the encroaching natural light. Their yellow glow clashes with the soft blue-gray of the dawn, a battle of artificial against natural light, with the latter slowly, inexorably, winning. Figures begin to emerge from the deepening gloom, not phantoms anymore, but solid, hunched shapes of early risers, their footsteps hushed, their movements slow and deliberate, like sleepwalkers in a half-dream. You watch as the sky above you, though still shrouded, begins to lighten from an inky black to a pale, ethereal slate, then to a faint, blushing rose at its highest, unseen reaches. The fog, rather than lifting, seems to transform, becoming more luminous, less menacing, swirling in softer, more graceful eddies. The buildings around you, once indistinguishable shadows, slowly reveal their grim, soot-stained facades, their architectural details emerging like bones from a grave. They are not beautiful, but they are real, solid, a stark contrast to the illusions of the night. You stand there, a silent witness to this slow, reluctant awakening. The long, haunted Halloween night is finally beginning its retreat, yielding to the inevitable march of morning. The first gray kiss of dawn is not a celebration, not a vibrant beginning, but a quiet, almost mournful transition, a gentle unveiling of a reality that has waited patiently beneath the veil of mist. And in that moment, as the spectral shadows of the night begin to fade, you realize that even the darkest, most terrifying night will eventually give way, not always to a brilliant new day, but to a subdued, almost melancholic promise of continuation, a quiet gray persistence that marks the return to a world where even ghosts must eventually surrender to the inevitable light. The soft gray kiss of dawn has spread across the city, gradually pushing back the deepest shadows, but the cold remains. It's no longer the biting, invasive chill of the deepest night, but a persistent, bone-deep cold. A physical memory of the hours spent shrouded in the unrelenting fog. The coal and damp still cling to your clothes, a heavy, permeating scent that feels irrevocably part of you, a lingering taste of London's hidden depths. The fog itself, though thinning, hasn't vanished entirely. It has merely transformed, swirling in translucent veils, revealing glimpses of the city's grim reality, but never quite offering full clarity. The familiar outlines of buildings, once monstrous suggestions in the dark, now stand as solid, soot-stained structures. Their grimy bricks, their broken windows, their weary facades emerge from the mist, carrying with them the ghost of every horror, every whisper, every desperation you encountered. The street, which was a stage for fleeting phantoms, is now merely a slick, muddy thoroughfare, but it feels different, imbued with the echoes of unseen footsteps and unspoken fears. You find your gaze lingering on ordinary doorways and alley entrances, seeing not just stone and shadow, but the lingering impression of frantic flight, of desperate figures, of profound grief, imprinted on your mind. The city around you begins its slow, grumbling awakening. The distant clatter of a milk cart, once a sign of returning normalcy, now seems to carry the ghost of the hansom cab's thunderous hooves. The faint scent of stale bread from a waking bakery struggles to overcome the phantom perfume of violets. The cloying sweetness of opium smoke, the sharp tang of ink from the penny dreadfuls. Your mind, weary from the night's journey, plays tricks, overlaying the mundane sounds of dawn with the echoes of the madhouse shrieks, the relentless tick-tock of 1,000 clocks, the mournful drone of the execution bell. Figures emerge from their meager shelters, hunched and shuffling, their faces etched with the harsh realities of their lives. They are not the spectral figures of the deep fog, but flesh and blood people, beginning another day. Yet, you see them differently. The old flower seller, already setting out her defiant blooms, seems to glow with a resilient, almost fierce light. The mudlark, already bent over the exposed riverbed, appears less a scavenger and more a tireless excavator of the city's profound, untold secrets. Every face, every gesture, seems to carry a heavier weight, a more complex story, now that you have walked through the deepest parts of London's haunted night. The fog begins its final, slow retreat, unraveling into wisps and tendrils, reluctantly giving way to the pallid light of morning. The sun, a cold, distant disk, tries to pierce the lingering haze, casting a weak, diffuse glow over the slick gray streets. But the night, you realize, has not truly vanished. It has simply withdrawn, leaving its indelible mark upon your senses, upon your mind. The city is clearer now, more discernible, but it is also forever changed, seen through a new lens of understanding. You stand there, a lone figure amidst the slow awakening, feeling the cold seep deeper, the taste of coal and damp still on your tongue. The physical fog may dissipate, but the haunting that remains is internal, a profound transformation of perception. You realize that true immersion isn't just about experiencing a moment, but about being permanently altered by it, carrying the echoes of every sight, every sound, every terrifying truth, long after the night itself has finally, irrevocably surrendered to the quiet gray dawn.